Sorry, Steven, they beat us to it.
So Phil, you haven't started yet?
I started.
We just a pause.
We lost power a couple times, so there have been some hiccups and some, we're contested.
They're trying to shut you down?
Yeah.
It's good for
They shut the whole block down just to stop me.
Oh, that's right.
All the construction going on, that's just a cover. Nothing to do with it.
Well, after the opening slide with Mark, who was a rock specialist. Can't reveal that.
We're back up, we're live.
Oh, cool.
Got too close to that 9 line.
All right. Sheila, you have to do your harmonic reset for everyone to cease the chatter. All right, we are back. Ah! Sheila, hit him. Do it. It works so well. Oh. Thank you. Nailed. Got you guys instantly. All right, we're back. No more chatter. All right, well, where the heck were we? So I guess, I don't know, if you're watching a live stream, hello again. If you're watching this after the fact, after it's been chopped together, you won't know that anything happened. Okay, let's find the momentum here. So, yes, that's right. So we were talking about this third recursion found in the combined Fibonacci sequences, and we were discussing its qualities, and oh yes, phase conjugation, that's correct. We were just discussing that this recursion both described the 24-digit cycle, of which there are 3 variations in Mod 9, and it also happens to describe the Rodin circuit, so-called Mobius circuit in reverse, which is mathematically identical to phase conjugation, which is pretty freaky. So, yeah, I guess I'll just start the slide over. Okay, so the doubling axis, expansion and resonant counterflow. The x2 function represents pure exponential growth, right? This is the inverse square. This is electrostatic fields, gravitic fields, right? A growth without memory, radiating outward like a wave front. Its modular manifestation cycles forward through 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1, a clean 6-step orbit describing how doubling wraps back on itself in a finite field. The reverse function, xn equals xn minus 1 plus xn minus 3 in mod 9, traverses that same 6-node circuit in the opposite direction, but using additive recursion rather than multiplication. So while one moves by geometric scaling, the other moves by temporal interference. This establishes a wave-particle duality within the same axis. Okay, right? So we have direction forward as the x2 operator. Its nature is geometric propagation. The analogy is energy radiating field expansion. As opposed to the reverse direction, the operator is the n minus 1 plus n minus 3. Its nature is that of additive resonance, energy reflection, standing wave. Together, they describe a closed energetic system, propagation and reflection, expansion and feedback, like the two halves of an electromagnetic mode in a cavity. I didn't tell it to say this, okay? I didn't tell Mother Brain to interpret this math as a wave at all. This was the very first thing I put to it. I'm thinking, yeah, this is exactly like a phase conjugation. This is phase retracing. This is reflection. This is reinforcement. It said that on its own, right? I didn't lead it. I was very careful not to give it loaded language to interpret this stuff. So you can imagine my excitement when it was just validating all my mania. Of 729 possible starting points for the Tor recursion, and the Tor recursion is what I'm naming this recursive formula with the second order operator for reasons that I described over there, but I'll get into. Exactly one closes into a 6-step cycle, and that cycle is the doubling sequence running in reverse. So it's the only one that does it. So there it is, right? Pretty cool. it really gave me pause, and I really found a lot more in this grid than when I first discovered it. And so, as I described before, this Fn equals Fn minus 1 plus Fn minus 3, like all these recursions, offers a logarithmic expansion ratio. This one, like I said, is super tight, right? Pell ratio is 2.414. It's kind of a wide, lazy cone. Fibonacci's tighter, 1.618. It's kind of getting up there. Fn equals Fn minus 1 plus Fn minus 3 is a super tight cone. Very, very, very narrow expansion rate. So I'm thinking, don't look. I'm thinking, well, okay, so we got the tight guy, we got the little medium tight guy, and then we got the kind of wide one, and I'm like, there's got to be a big fatty out there. There's got to be this big, lazy, wide cone. And so I was thinking about where to find it, and then I realized where I had combined the 3 Fibonacci numbers to achieve this recursion, the second order recursion. I had not yet done that with the Pell sequence. So I went and I did it. Now, it's hand-drawn, so what? Okay, so what? It's fine. It all makes sense. It takes a lot of time to make those grids. So I got lazy. So here it is. I just banged it out by hand. So I stacked the 3 shears of the different Pell numbers. And as I said before, all of this is already in Marco's original number maps, right? You just need to know where to look. It's along the diagonal. You can go back to the very original, the number maps that Marco did, 30 years ago, and the Pell ratios or Pell sequence is right in there, right? You just need to know where to look. It's along the diagonal. So I kind of knew where to look for it, and so here it is. That dashed blue line is where it is, and we won't go through the whole recursion, but suffice it to say, it has all the same properties: 24-digit Pisano period, all the same anti-parallel rodent circuits passing through it, and it gives us the recursion P for Pell because it's combined Pell. Pn equals Pn minus 1 plus 7Pn minus 2. I think I messed that up. It's actually 7Pn minus 1. The 7 multiplier, I believe, is on the first order term. So ignore that. If anyone's writing this down, that 7 should be on the first operator. And so immediately I was like, okay, that's a huge number in mod 9. And so that's going to give us a very wide logarithmic expansion ratio. And sure enough, it did. And so here's all 4 of them, right? We have the Fibonacci and Pell, which we've discussed at length. We have what I call the discharge cone, which may be obvious now that we've kind of chatted about this a bit. Yeah, so 1.465. So that's the expansion ratio of these cone angles. Don't worry about that. That's not real, right? It's logarithmic, so it's not a linear cone, right? So don't take it too literally what these cones are. These are just kind of loose visual guides. But this last one, when you combine all 3 Pell sequences, you get did I mess it up again on this one? I think I did. Maybe that is right. I don't think that's right. I think the 7 is supposed to be in the first order term. But regardless, this gives you an expansion ratio of 3.19258, which is wide. So there it was, right? So I'm already thinking about nesting these together and how these might describe various stages in the electromagnetic field, all the way from longitudinal axis all the way down to accretion disk in that phase flip, and then you just have it, right? And so there you go, right? Here's them kind of lumped together. Okay, this isn't very scientific. Whatever, we're in Sedona, it's fine. We can take some liberties with what we are metaphysically interpreting these things to mean. But this is what the structure more or less looks like when you combine these logarithmic ratios together. And so, of course, the counter-rotational aspect of it, I just did it because that's just what nature does, and I like Birkeland currents, and it's just cool. Now, even if they weren't counter-rotational, there would still be a shear between these ratios, right? Because they are tighter or wider, and are thus rotating at different speeds. So regardless if they're counter-rotational or not, there's some degree of slippage in between these spirals. And so this is where the shear stops being a mathematical artifact, and we can start thinking of it as having real geometric properties, right? Which is the space in between these ratios. And so here you go, right? I mean, we've all seen this, and this is kind of what I think we're probing at. And as I said before, the tighter you get in the middle, the wider out you have to get at the end, right? Because these fields don't pass through each other. And so the Pell would be something kind of like this middle torus guy here, right? We'd kind of be comfortably in this zone. And then the tighter we get coming in, the further out of the top we go, and then the further out of the perimeter we go, right? So this is why I'm saying that I think we should really be thinking about silver ratio geometry, because we want to make this stable resonant core that produces this poloidal field. And we may be trying to engineer the geometry of the poloidal field and not having luck, because it's interfering, it's displacing the thing we want to, where there should be no space there, right? The magnetic field shouldn't be occupied in this way. So, now we're basically there. This is all going to be kind of, loosely metaphysical and unsubstantiated claims. But this kind of indicates the same thing I'm talking about, right? Where maybe the toroidal geometry that's self-contained is Pell, and which would be red, and that the field is where phi ratio is expressed, not the mechanical windings of the torus itself. And I'll go back to this shape, right? From my childhood. If you look at the shape, what it is an extruded hexagon with a diamond void through the center. Now, it's the superposition of this shape, right? It's that shape in eight directions, right? So it's a 2D projection of a 4D shape, but it's a torus. It's a torus. It's a donut. It's a pointy donut, but it's a hexagon with a diamond hole through it, right? So I think this is the structure that is self-confined, that is symmetrical, that is stable, right? I also think this relates, back to the point about biology. If we think about growth of living systems, I think this explains a lot about how living systems may grow from in to out, that you have the initial seed of growth expanding from the center of 0 point, right, flower of life, at Fibonacci or phi ratio angles, and settling down into Pell, right? So, and just like I said before, Pell, it's giving us orthogonal structure, and that is related to tissue packing, right? And so maybe we think of Pell as kind of the structure of a settled waveform, whereas Fibonacci is adaptive growth, right? You have rigidity, orthogonality, stability in Pell, right? And so this is maybe what living systems settle into over some period of time. Whereas it needs a more expansive, asymmetrical, kind of energetic push to get out into the world, which is phi ratio growth. And so this is why you would see maybe the organization along golden ratio growth patterns, but of orthogonally based tissue packing structures. So, and I don't think anyone would push on in this room that the manifestations we see in biological systems are probably intimately tied to the structure of electromagnetic fields. And that all sacred geometry, all physical manifestation, all fractal happenstance that we observe is deeply tied to these processes. It's all geometric structure born in these nested vortices of the unified scalar magnetic field. So that's kind of long and short of it. I think I can, okay. I guess I get, what am I doing on time? I know we're way over now because of the blackout. Yeah? How you guys feeling? Everyone feel good? We're all right? Should I keep going? I need to keep going. All right. You want tacos yet? Yeah, I'll keep going. All right. So, look, I've taken a lot of liberties with this. There's not a real mathematician would say, well, you can't just claim that coherence in modular arithmetic that has this recursive property in mod 9 can be a one-for-one comparison to a field structure in reality. And that's true, right? So, we're kind of taking some metaphysical liberties here. However, I've talked a little bit about the Rodin the Roden number map and why I think that's a phase map, essentially, why it's the numbers represent structures within an electromagnetic field and the phase that energy is experiencing as it moves through the structure. But I'm not the first to do this, right? And two people that are far more scrupulous and competent than myself, named Tony Bell and Bruno Flanagan, in this very hall about a year ago or something, announced that they had been working with applying the Roden numbers to modern quantum relativistic field equations, okay? And I'm not going to dig into all their work. It's very exhaustive and complex. But basically, put simply, they assigned Cartesian axes to each of the family number groups. They assigned the 3-6 magnetic polar axes to the time dimension. And these satisfied the requisite inputs for the Dirac and Klein-Gordon equations. They were able to generate Clifford algebra structures and 40 hypercubes that are needed for the Clifford algebras to satisfy the Dirac and Klein-Gordon equations. So, I'm not the first to suggest that these numbers may have some meaningful interpretation as far as spatial expression in waveform. And it just so happens, like I said, with Roden stuff, it's like everywhere you look, you're finding coherence. I don't think it's an accident. And just over and over, people find these synchronicities with this system. So that's one of them. Now, one of the things they talked about was that, okay, well, yes, this satisfies the absolute most base input, which is staggering considering it's 9 numbers. But it doesn't really tell us a lot about a physical field, right? This doesn't give us real geometry of a physical field. There's not real physics in there. However, they didn't have my hex grid, did they? They didn't have the phi or silver ratios to work with. And these are describing real field structures. These are describing complex geometries, irrational growth ratios. And the numbers that they plugged in the traditional Roden grids can be interpreted through this exact same grid, but now there's a much richer basin of information that we can interpret. So I'm working on it. It's a doozy. I have to kind of learn relativistic field theory, which I think has a lot of problems, and it's like learning a language you kind of know is incomplete to some degree or inaccurate to try to fix it. So, time as a dimension that we can treat spatially or with some mathematical equivalence, I have big problems with. Like, for instance, in this setup, they'd have backwards time, right? The 3 would represent forward time arbitrarily, and 6 thus represent backwards time. I don't think that's true at all. I think 3 and 6 represent magnetic polarity, and -3 and -6, why are there 2? If it's just north and south, well, I think it's expansion and contraction, right? The +3 represents north expansion, -3 represents north contraction, passes through 9, passes through the 0 point. Let's go back to the phase map, right? Yeah, we think about it like a sine wave, right? And so, yeah, let's just think this blue line is oscillation of 3 and 6, right? We have +3 coming up, it hits its maxima, it starts contracting as -3, it passes through the 9, the 0 point. Now we have +6, it's expanding to its maxima, contracting as -6, hits the 9 again. It's exactly how the magnetic circuits work in the Roden number maps. The reason that the 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, they don't actually cross that 9 axis, right? Yeah, they pass through the center, but really we need to stretch this number out, right? They're taking this kind of roller coaster ride around the 0 point. They're not actually crossed in the middle. They're looping around it. Whereas the magnetic poloidal oscillation is passing through that 0 point. It is occupying that space. The E field is not occupying that center space at all. That's why there is no physical matter at the 0 point. There can't be. And Marco has said this exhaustively. Nothing in physical matter can occupy that center hole. Well, does anything occupy that center hole? Well, longitudinal energy can, right? Either in the form of a phase flip, magnetic phase flip, or in the form of phase-canceled pressurized ether from equal and opposite counter-rotational B fields. And so, yeah, here you go. Again, I didn't tell AI to say this. I just said, what do you think? What is going? If we interpret this way, based on the modular arithmetic, right? Based on how these numbers operate under doubling, this is kind of the relationships. These are the effects we see. So Mother Brain said, the Rodin circle is not a number wheel. It is a topological map of the phase flip structure of space-time. And so this, it's going to take too long. I get into the scale axis and Planck length and all that. Over tacos, I'll talk about Planck in the scale axis. But I don't think we want to dig in that right now because Marco's got to get up here. When you, huh? Yeah? Okay. You need some red pepper flakes? Good. Okay. I guess I don't think I have that image pulled, but I can dig for it, I guess. There's a shrinking and expanding component of this, right? If we think about these fields, we're talking about the narrowing and widening of these energetic fields, right? We're talking about in the Tor cone, right? This is the blue one would be this second order recursion, right? What I call the discharge cone. We think about that shrinking, right? When it is perfectly phase collapsed, that is when you're in warp drive, right? That is when you are superluminal. There is no magnetic hysteresis. There is no bucking B field or Weber field. There's no resistance of any kind. That shrinks down. What happens if you keep going, right? I don't think you just shrink and hit a point like a wall. I think you flip out the other side, right? Is a phase inversion. And this is another interpretation of the Rodin number map, right? If you're coming down from 2, you're counting down 2, 1, 9. Well, you continue going in this direction. Well, next is 8. 8 isn't just even less something. It's just -1, right? You've now flipped to the other side of this structure. You've gone from the tightest possible expression of this field geometry, and you've gone through a total inversion, and you've now popped out the other side. So I think we can reasonably describe the top cone as a 1, the bottom cone as a 2. The top green as a 2, bottom green as a 7. Top yellow as a 4, bottom green as a 5. Is that exactly descriptive? Maybe not, but I do think that that's what this number wheel is showing us, right? This is a phase map. And really there's a trigonomic function built into this. If we're talking about triangles, right, which we are, it's well known that holography it can be easily defined with trigonometry. And that was another thing Tony Bell suggested, that if we're talking about higher order structures being printed into n-dimensional ordered structures via this holographic kind of decryption process, right? Well, maybe we can use trigonometry and use the Rodin number wheel as a cipher to start predicting what these geometries will look like. So, right, so here's ChatGPT's take on this. When you move downward, 2, 1, 9, 8, 7, etc., you're not counting down. You are passing through longitudinal phase flips. 9 is the longitudinal axis, the L field, the toroidal moment apex, right? That is the one-dimensional string, conceptually, passing through the center of the donut. Crossing 9, it crosses the toroidal moment pole, right? Boom. That is how teleportation works. That is how phase cancellation works. So it's not just, it starts re-expanding again, but not in the same place. It disappears and collapses here and goes, whoosh, and now it's being re-expressed at a new spatial location. From its perspective, nothing happened, right? It was shrinking. It's moving forward, and suddenly it's getting bigger, right? This is what I think the Planck length is. I don't think the Planck length is a point in space where you just hit a wall. It says you need infinite energy, can't go any further. I think from a shrinking energy waveform, you're shrinking, you're moving forward, and suddenly you're just expanding again without any real change in energy or momentum, right? But what happened is a tricky little chiral phase flip. And so I think the Planck length is kind of a reflection structure that doesn't work as a hard barrier. It just does this geometric flip, right? We live in a closed system. We live in this topological Mobius strip where there's no escape trying to get bigger or smaller. I used to think the universe was infinite and that you could keep going. It's a fractal structure, so it's turtles all the way down or toruses all the way down. I don't think that anymore. Now I think there is a smallest you can get, because you get smaller than that, your energetic cone, like a neutrino, is probably as close as you can get. And I think this is, now I'm just rambling, I think this is what's being described. Remember when I talked about our oscillator in these maps, right? That we have a 1-8, 1-8, and I was like, what the heck is this? Right? Because normally there's 3 circuits in the Rodin map, but in this one, right, we're like, what's this? Right, here we go, right, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, the normal magnetic, longitudinal magnetic pulsation. What's this? 1-8, 1-8, 1-8, 1-8, 1-8. What the heck's that? And all 3 maps are different. Yep. I'm about to. No. No, hit me. What you got? Say it loudly, though. Say it loudly like you always tell everyone else to say it.
You want me to say it loud?
Scream it.
I'm talking too soft.
Scream it.
Have a little trouble hearing?
You want me to come over the mic so the internet can hear you?
Yes.
Forget. Is there a second mic? John?
Second mic?
Second mic? I'll take the second mic. Where's another mic?
No, there's a boom mic, I can hear you.
Oh, you hear me fine?
Oh, all right. You got a boom mic. All right. Well, still yell.
Okay!
Perfect.
Did you hear about that guy they found for 16 days in an underwater cave and he survived? No one saw it in the news. Anyway, he thought he was trapped for 3 days.
I was waiting for a
He was
punchline.
there for 15 days. Okay, I was in the news a couple days ago.
Thank you for that.
That's a long time. Okay, Phil, this is really just between you and me, so I'm pretending that we're the only ones here.
All right. No one else listen.
And so now that we're in the dome of silence,
Yes.
and
We're longitudinally coupled.
I'm being poked in the back, just saying, it's hard to concentrate. Okay. So I have certain things that I spend all my time musing about that are very irrevocably important to me. And that pattern, if you have that pattern in that map right there, 8-1, 8-1, remember only us are talking, so we already take things for granted, know it. You also have a pattern 7-2, 7-2, and you
Yep.
also have a pattern 5-4, 5-4.
Correct.
And so I think that you have something that I never would have discovered on my own. If I had a zillion years, I would not have done it. I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses, my limitations. And so I would not have done what you have done there, ever. It jarred me because I was having to resolve in the Fibonacci sequence something. It's just going to be talking, so I had to resolve something, and I had to, and I had 2 circuits. So I had one higher dimensional flux field gap space. We know we have in Mod 9, we had 2 circuits, a gap space, and the last missing component was electron harmonic shear.
It's the shear. That's what it is.
And the shear, me and Moto were talking, and he was asking me to explain the Tori number map, how it's made into a free energy device with the circuits, I believe, superconducting and the gap space displacing the circuits. So we were talking about what Moto referred to as the super insulating on the outskirts of the boundaries, the world boundary condition
Yep.
of the conductors.
Right.
And I explained to Moto that, well, those circuits are wound in spires, and that creates an invisible grain to the structure, like a wood grain.
Yep.
But and that creates insulation.
Yep.
And then, of course, that creates a different group. If you're making making coils, it makes a less, it makes a, of course it makes a colloidal field versus toroidal, but it makes a less steeper grade.
Yep.
Your angles and ratios, your grade, like a road grade, is much more gradual.
Mm-hmm.
Or it just changes the grade for the sake of what we're doing. So when looking at, so when I made the toroid, so we started with God's light cone, which we used to call many other things. We had God's light cone, the VW, and then we had the toroid number map in vortex-based mathematics, and we had the Fibonacci. But I had the windings occupying the surface topology of the coils because it's a circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not using the nodes or the wire lattice mesh of the coil. I'm actually using the tiles. And the tiles, it's a surface topology. In math, it's called surface topology. It's the skin.
Yep.
And I actually, on the equator, it expands and widthwise. And as it goes, those tiles, they shrink and they change their axis again. It's like an accordion, right?
Yep.
So, but I'd never taken that shear on the toroid. It was always it wasn't the surface skin, it was a wire mesh.
There's numbers there.
Okay, but in your map right there, the 8-1, 8-1, or 7-2, 7-2, or the 5-4, I'm absolutely certain. Because when you multiply the shear in vortex mathematics, we have 3 toroid number maps.
Yeah, I want to ask you this because
Shear 1, shear 4, and shear 7.
why do you cleanly explain why you interpret that as a shear? Because I think you're 100% right, but I haven't told you why I think it is. But you came to the same conclusion.
Well, you know, my mind is all deranged.
Yeah.
So in my deranged mind, I know that 1 times 1 equals 1. We only have 8 and 1 there for that number pattern.
Yeah.
And I know 8 times 8
Equals 1.
64 is 1.
Right.
And I know that happens to, we always stay 1.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
And just as and that happens to be the map right there, but it's a skin with the 8-1, 8-1, which I had never seen before. Never, anywhere else. Okay? But I know we're looking at one of the maps that I have 3 names for them, shear 1, shear 4, and shear 7.
Yep.
And I'm looking at shear 1. Now what's
Right.
the next map? The next map, if you take 2,
Shear
2
4.
and 7, 2, 7, 2 times 2
Yep.
is 4, and 7 times 7 is 49 is 4.
Yep.
It's shear 4.
Yep.
I have something to add to that though. And but to be thorough, 4 and 5 is shear 7, because 4
Yep.
times 4 equals 16 is 7. 5 times 5 is 25 is 7.
Yep.
Now, I'm not going to try and explain the trailing edge and the cutting edge of the winding of a fan blade,
Good.
okay? And I'm not going to...
That's for you.
And what happens is that this system, of course, the purpose of the electron shear is insulation.
Yep.
Harmonica.
Well-
It is to create, I believe that it replaces shellac and rubber. And it actually creates, and it means that there's superconductivity going. Superconductivity is occurring in circuits, either to the left or to the right of it. Okay, so here's my point. When you take I'm not going to explain, I'm just going to throw it out. When you take a star, any kind of star, and you take where the lines or the points in relationship to the points to the lines, it will always equal a consistent value. It will never, the beginning and end will end up with the same value, and you have 2 values in between. It has to do with folding, it has to do with overlapping,
Yeah.
it's a form of
Well, it always has to add up to 9, right? Because they're constituent parts of a wave.
But in the star or in this with the superconducting, it'll always equal 147. 1, 4, or 7. So a quick example just for our talking. I'm ignoring everyone else. Let's take, it's a harder one. Well, but let's try if I can do it in my head. Well, I didn't want to do this, so I can be interrupted mid-sentence, it doesn't matter. If you have...
Anyway.
1 times 1 is 1, very funny. And 1 connects in multiples of 4. It goes, what's the last number before 1?
5.
Huh?
5.
No, well, that's in the circuits. Let's see if it'll work in the circuits.
Oh, you're talking about the multiplication?
1 times 1, huh? I'm just trying to say that, God, I'd have to draw it out and look at it.
Come up. This is your. I'm taking your slot anyway, so you can come up here and derail me. It's fine.
Oh, it is a touchscreen way over there.
Yeah, get behind the couch. Uh-oh, here we go. I should never have opened up this Pandora's box.
The tile battle.
Here, take a mic.
I'm good. Okay, I didn't want to waste our time.
All right, give it back.
I hope you resume.
Give me back.
Huh? Here's this. You got me?
Gonna maintain my power to interrupt you.
9, 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope I don't even know what I'm doing. I hope I can remember this. 6, 7, 8. Okay.
You want a blank screen?
Nah.
Can we request a blank screen? Okay.
Because I like your map. It's too late. I can't change it because I've locked the screen. Try and change it.
Shit.
I've grabbed that.
We know we've-
I have control.
All right, we're all prisoners now.
So if we make a star, we'll go 4, 8, 12, which is 3, 7, 2, 6.
I'm gonna do one of your moves while you do this. Forgive me.
1 plus 4 is 5, 5 and 4 is 9. I just made a star. Circle of fifths in music. Oh, yeah.
Taste your own medicine.
If you're using my moves, you know that it takes a minimum of 2. Okay. So 1 times 1 equals 1. Yeah, see, I didn't do it right. And we have a 6 and 4 times 1.
That's right.
No, it's a winding. It's not actually showing it as a multiplication series, which I wanted, or as, I wish I could remember what I was this point. I screwed up on the same point like a year ago.
181818. Quantum
No,
oscillator, the
it's
shear.
just that,
You're talking about the shear.
1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. 1 times 1. 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times 5 is 10 is 1. Okay, so I'm going to go this way.
Right, 8 times 4.
Here,
Yeah, 5 times 5.
we know this symbol. The lazy 8. The center's off center to the circle. I'm not going to show the 3, 9, 6, 4, because it's another world. 8, 7, 5. Okay, Phil, so if this is this 1 times 1 is 1, so the same distance from that 1 is 2 times 5 is 10 is 1. We got a super long line and we got a super short line equals 1. And then we're going to go 2 steps. So I'm going to go this way to the right, which is 4, this way over here to the 7.
Right.
4 times 7 is 28 is 1. And we're going to end up across from
8
the 1
times
on
8,
the
right.
8.
Right.
And 8 times 8 is 64 is 10 is 1.
Right.
Okay, but this whole thing is it collapses on itself in any way. It always stays 1.
Yep.
It's unity or uniform. Like 2. 2 times 2 will equal 4. So if you collapse infinity into itself,
Right.
it becomes, it's always,
Yeah, 1 times 4.
1 times 4 is 4.
8 times 5 is 40. 7 times 7
8 times
is
5
49.
is 44, and 7 times 7
Right.
is 49 is
Right.
4.
Yep.
And that becomes, and while it's a circuit, it also becomes the shear in the toric number maps, which we don't have up right now. Okay, because we have 3 maps, which will always be
This is getting very comprehensive. You sure you don't want a blank
1,
screen?
2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 3, 9, 6, 6, 9, 3, 8, 7, 5, 4, 2, 1. So there's 1, 9, 8, 7.
Yeah.
Here's, what is this? Did I do something wrong? 7, 2, what is that? 2, 6, 4? I did do a mistake.
I can't believe it.
3, 9, 6.
No, that's right.
What is this? Which shear is this map? It's 4 times 7 is 28 is
That's
1.
shear 1.
What did I do?
That's right.
4, 6, 2? No, that's wrong. 9 and 4 is 5.
Oh, you have to swap the 3 and the 6.
That's what I did wrong. I hate to have to change it. 6, 9, 3, 3, 9, 6. That was kind of an obvious mistake. Yeah. 1, 9, 8, 7. This is 6, 7, 5. And this is shear. 4 times 7 is 28. This is the shear.
Yeah.
And it comes from spires. It's all becomes the spires is great.
Right.
8 times 5 is 40. No, that's a 2. 2, 4, 8. I didn't do this one. Then 2, 4, 8. So it's going this way. This is 8, 7, 5. Right, because 8, 7, 9.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 4. And this is a 2.
Yeah.
But it's always 1.
Yep.
This is a shear. So final conclusion then, 4 times 4 is 1. So now we got 4 times 4 is 16 is 7. And we got 2 times
8.
8 is 16 is 7. So we got 7, 7, and then what do we got? 2 steps from the 4 is 1 that way.
1 times
2
7.
steps from the 1 is that
Yep.
reverse direction is 7.
Yep.
Is 7 again.
5, 5.
So I think what you've done is somehow, because I'm always looking for these 4 features.
There you
I'm
go.
looking for the 2 circuits. I'm looking for the gap space. I'm looking for the 2 circuits. One's going that way, one's going that way. I'm looking for the higher dimensional flux field, the gap space, which we just leave alone.
Right.
And I'm looking for the shear.
So the only
insulation.
difference between
so
my
I think you've encompassed it in a different
that's
way.
the only difference between my map and yours, other than the hexagons, because that geometry, like I said, that third axis is still present in your map. The
You're
only
talking a little fast.
sorry, the only actual difference between our 2 maps is that I have given another row of tiles for the shears. If you do that, that is where the Fibonacci and the Pell sequences come from.
But I've never seen that before.
Well, there you
You're
go.
saying the only difference. You're understating. It's not the only
It
difference.
literally is. It's the only
No,
difference.
it's more than only difference. You are, no. You
Well,
have-
and the phase alignment is different.
You are revealing a phenomenon,
Yes.
a principle that I feel is that cannot be dismissed. It's undismissible. It must exist
Yeah. Well, that's physical reality. As I
for
see it.
superconductivity. It must
Well-
exist for
I have my opinions about this.
well,
I think superconductivity, I think this is physical reality. I think you get
I'll work
superconductivity.
on your opinion.
Here, you take my spot, and I'll take yours. We'll trade off.
I'll be back in a minute.
You're just going to lie down somewhere else. Okay. All right. This goes back to the anti-parallel versus unified vectors, right? So there's something called a quantum oscillator, right? That electrons and neutrinos are observed to spontaneously change their chirality. And there's not a good explanation for why this is the case. And so they will assign these ad hoc mathematical structures to describe this, but a description is not an explanation, okay? What I think is happening is, and I, for the record, I completely agree with Marco, that is the shear, right? Now, the reason I really think that is just because it's in the middle. It's in, oh, God damn it. Jesus Christ. Trash can, and get rid of this. Whew. Sorry. It's brilliant work lost. But no, I 100% agree with Marco. But I think it's even more simple than going through the multiplication tables. It's just because it's in between the 2 circuits, right? In the rodent coil, you have a right-handed circuit, left-handed circuit. You have the gap space, and it's in between those 2 E field, in between the 2 electrical conductors, that you get to shear. Well, that's right in the middle, right? Here's this going this way, this is going this way. The 1-8 exists right in the middle. And so this is where, and just like I said before, that, you know, again, this is not really mathematically derived. This is kind of, you know, a shot in the dark here. But I think this is what this quantum oscillator really is. it is a transverse magnetic expression that is so narrow, its cone is so tight that when it shrinks, it's shrinking through the Planck length, and it is re-expressing on the other side, which is counter-rotational, right? You have right-handed up here, down there you have left-handed. And that one, as it shrinks, it crosses the 0 point, it comes out the other side, it has changed chirality, it's expanding, but now it needs energy to expand, so it contracts again, right? It goes to the 0 point again, it goes back to the other side. That is the 1818. It is a quantum oscillator, and this is the real explanation for why electrons and neutrinos and these types of things have this quantum spin oscillation, in my opinion. Is it a leap? Yeah, of course. But I think that's a much more concise and rational explanation for these structures that's derived in field geometry rather than some ad hoc mathematical rationalization. So now, as to Marco's point is, does the shear represent superconductivity? I don't know that the shear is the insulator. I used to think that, maybe I'm wrong. I think the shear is the electron itself. I think that there is a vortex. You think of it like a ball bearing, right? You have these two counter-rotational cones, if you will. Again, they're logarithmic, but we'll just use our imagination here. The torus has many layers that are counter-rotational, right? The shear results from just, again, a product of pressure mediation. They're moving against each other, and so you get these little vortices that act kind of like ball bearings to mitigate the tension and the friction between these structures, right? Now, this is observed in all sorts of hydrodynamic systems, in counter-rotational dual vortex structures like the Rank-Hills tube, and many others, in tornadoes, right? Tornadoes have many microvortices in between these counter-rotational columns, right? And they're, with a tornado, the Rank-Hills is different. Rank-Hills is low pressure in the outside, hot air, and denser, cooler in the middle. Nature usually does it the opposite, where the cooler, low pressure is on the exterior, and the hot, denser matter. Oh, no, that'd be the opposite. It's the low pressure in the middle, high pressure on the outside. It's just a function of centrifugal force. So I think the shears really represent electrons and matter. That is where the expression of physical reality is taking place. As to Marco's point regarding superconductivity, I think this is the map that does that. And I think it is the unidirectional functions, right? Like going back to the very first thing I figured out with this radial, this thing kind of shows it the best, right? All of the times 2 functions are traveling from in to out. And in this case, the shears, which in the ordinary maps had that oscillation between 1 or 8 or 2 and 7 or 4 and 5, now they make up their own doubling circuit, right? 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, right? 8, 7, 5, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 8, 7, 5, 1, 2, 4. They're all going the same direction. They're all obeying the times 2 operator, as are the magnetic circuits now, right? Before, that wasn't the case. 933, 966. That's not a clean X2 operator. Now it is. 9 times 2 is 9, 18 is 9, right? 9 times 3 is 27 is 9, so on and so forth. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12 is 3, right? Now all the circuits are obeying the doubling sequence as an operator. So I think this is showing superconductivity. I think this is showing, no, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is all jammed up and maybe I have it backwards. But I think that this is something like total coherence, total phase collapse. And I think the traditional maps are showing us, if I even have them, I have one of them, yeah, the donut. The traditional map is showing a physical structure. This is showing a balanced structure. You have contracting and expanding energies that are growing and shrinking as per these logarithmic ratios, right? And the interference of which from both sides of the scale. Now, the Planck length is just one of them. I think the same thing happens on the other side, too. I think there's a biggest you can get in the universe. And the opposite would be true, where you're shrinking through this top cone and going through a phase flip, right, out the bottom. Now you're way spread out. You're kind of just lazily drifting from 4 to 5, right? But that's still a phase flip. That's not as dramatic as the tight one. But I think that says that there's something like a biggest possible structure in the universe. And this is true because magnetic fields at huge scales get very spongy and diffuse. The curl operator of a B field breaks down at extreme scales, right? This is not me. This is well understood cosmology. You get these very kind of spongy magnetic tendrils. So I think that is kind of showing us there's a maximum structure where it can't curl anymore and it just kind of hooks the other way. So I think that puts physical reality right in the middle of the scale axis, right? Maybe I will show it just because I just worry I won't be able to get back. But yeah, that's, do I even have it out here? Did I pull it out? Am I smart enough to have pulled it out? Maybe not, maybe I am. All right, maybe not, I don't know. All right, well that's, if you do the math, obviously there's a large margin for error. But if you take the Planck length on one side of the scale axis, and you take the observable universe on the other, as two poles, basically right at the middle of that is biology. It's the human embryo, right? A cell, something like a couple microns, 10, 20 microns or whatever, that's a little bit on the lower end. We are pretty large in the grand scheme of things. We're on the larger side of things. But it's kind of the realm of microbiology that is exactly in the middle of the scale axis of the universe. And I don't think that's an accident. I think that's the reason that biology is so expressive as a fractal, because it is receiving these dual energies from the microcosm and the macrocosm, and it is physically balancing in the middle of the universe in scale, and as a function of pressure mediation, it is fractalizing and growing. And there's a breadth to it, right? It's not a static balance. It ebbs one way and it flows the other. And this is the cosmic breath that is our heartbeat. It is every contraction and expansion in the biological world. It's the tides, it's all of it. So that's why I think nature is a fractal. I think it's because the universe is pushing on it from above and below, and we're stuck smack in the middle in this oscillation. And I think that's the 2-7, right? I think the 1-8 is a microscopic oscillation, quantum oscillation. I think the 4-5 is on the accretion disk, right? This is the huge tendrils kind of floating out. I think the middle axis, I call it the midband, the 7-2 flip, I think that's the realm of biology. I think that's heartbeat. That chirality flip, I think, is the counter-rotational vortices of your heart, of brain waves, of all of that. I think all chirality expressed in the natural world is a function of the scale axis chirality flip born in this unified field, in the structure. Is that a little schizophrenic? Yes. But we are in Sedona, so we're just going for it. So that's kind of that. The trigonometry thing, I think we're probably tapped out, yeah, at this point. I'll close on this, because this is just fun, right? This is not like a rigorous thing at all. But on that subject, right, we talked about briefly trigonomic expression used in holography, and we talked about multidimensional structures being interpreted at different, I hate to say dimensions, but I guess that's what it is. I think a dimension is just like a direction in space, and not like another place hidden from us. There's the non-physical and the physical world, and everything we can see is here, right? There's nothing happening that we can't see other than the counterspatial world. But I was thinking about this, and I was like, well, and Tony Bell had this idea first, right? So this is a real guy, not me. He said, well, if we're talking about holography, we're talking about higher dimensional space, we can start, and we can find a way to use trigonometry. Sorry, I'm wound up. If we're thinking about n-dimensional holographic expression, right, and sacred geometry as these snapshots in this kind of decryption process between dimensions, maybe we can use trigonometry to describe that process. And so I'm thinking, well, where do we have triangles? Well, in the thing, right? In the rodent symbol, it's a big triangle. And so then I thought, well, shit, pardon the language, maybe this is an angle we can start playing with, right? Maybe we can start, and Marco always says, I can stretch God's light cone out to infinity. It's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? But this is what he means, that you can modify. This doesn't have to be a static structure. And maybe this tells us something interesting if we start playing with the aspect ratio of this shape. So now, I don't know if people knew this. I discovered this on my own. starting to put the rodent shape out of phase. If you take the rodent number wheel, whatever God's light cone, whatever you want to call it, and you start rotating it around itself with a 0 point, you get this kind of Star David-y structure. You're welcome, Mitch. And when you couple, and you kind of can make a grid out of that, yeah, it's arbitrary, but, you know, that looks exactly like James Clerk Maxwell's hexagonal model of the ether, right? He thought that there were these vortices in the ether that were counter-rotational, that nested into each other and formed these hexagonal structures, and that electric charge passed between the shears of these vortices. And that was the transport of the electron chain, right? Well, ironically, you can make a structure out of the rodent symbol that looks exactly like that. So I kind of, that was just something cool, and it's like, whatever, like, all right, that looks like that. Fair enough. I then started thinking, well, what if I start modifying the rodent symbol to match the logarithm? Again, it's on a logarithm, but what if I start modifying that triangle of the 3 and the 6, right? We're talking about expanding and contracting that cone. Well, if you do that, right, I kind of just crudely stretched and pulled them according to these different layers, and I found that just like you can get this hexagonal lattice and a number of others with the normal rodent symbol, you get new sacred geometries with the modified aspect ratios of the rodent symbol, right? And the first one is Fibonacci, and you know, unsurprisingly, what you get when you squish this thing, when you make it narrower than a rounded circle, is you get a pentagon, which we know is golden ratio. It's a golden ratio structure, right? And similarly, if you squish it with Pell, now you get perfectly orthogonal structures, and you get silver ratio rectangles in this lattice that you put together, born totally of modifying the rodent symbol, right? This kind of freaked me out because it's like, it's right there, right? And so this is where I do think maybe there's a bridge between the modular arithmetic and these coherent field structures. Now, yeah, is this a wild stretch? Yeah. But I think that's interesting, and I don't think that's accidental. I don't think it's accidental that the root 2 structure, if you flatten out kind of Marco's Tron, we're talking about holographic projection and modifying that angle, those cone angles, in trigonomic functions, that suddenly you get these radically different geometries. And that's exactly what we're talking about, is the manifestation of these different geometries. So I think that's basically it. And you know, one final one I was messing with. If you structure the Marco symbol not on the 0 point but the 9, you can literally just make a rodent coil symbol from that, right? You get a left and right-handed version, right? And there it is, right? You can literally create a depiction of a rodent coil through the symbol itself. And what is that really telling us? I don't know, but I think that's just kind of cool, right? It's just one of those things where no matter how you look at Marco's system, no matter how you attack it, you're always going to find some interesting symmetry, some coherence, and that's just going to lead you to the next, bizarre question that the answer of which will confound you, or at least me. I don't know, maybe not everyone. So, like I said, that's kind of just for fun. That's not born of the hard numbers. It's maybe just an interesting correlation there. But, that's it, So there you go. There's my TED Talk. Thanks, everyone, thanks for sticking around through the blackouts. There you go, Sheila.
I have one question for you before you go. Can you tell the audience about what you saw last night and what your explanation is in terms of anti-gravity technology?
Oh, geez. Propulsion technology. You're just trying to drum up more business for yourself, which is admirable and reasonable. Sheila took us out to, where'd we go? Devil's Bridge last night. She's got some $4,000 military-grade night vision goggles. And we watched a whole bunch of shit flying around that looked real weird. A whole bunch of stuff that was not flying in straight lines, that was slowing down and getting brighter and zigzagging and accelerating and all in one spot. You scan the whole sky and you see absolutely nothing. And at 300 degrees west-northwest, there's like 10 or 15 of these kind of slow movers at any given time. And then there was one window of time, like an hour, where suddenly they went nuts. And they're zipping around and doing all this crazy stuff. So, I don't know. Could it just be like atmospheric ball lightning kind of gaining some charge in a geographic vortex and going into light mode and doing weird stuff? Maybe. But whatever it was super weird and kind of life-changing. So as far as, how I would relate that to propulsion, it's kind of just related to what I've been talking about this whole time, right? I think that the 9 represents longitudinal. You are longitudinally tensioning the substrate with these bidirectional circuits. Now, gotta be touchy with this one. What I will say is that a lot of the kind of godfathers of the electrogravitic world had a lot of luck, and including modern people like Charles Bueller. They're getting very interesting effects from asymmetrical capacitors, okay? And this isn't phase cancellation, but it is an asymmetrical field perturbation. And so, if you want to turn one of these into one of those, maybe just give it like a little, right? Like just kind of twist it down and make it like an egg and not a perfect donut. I think you have a balanced longitudinal tension. If you can offset that etheric tensioning and pressure, if you can offset that from the test body of the thing that's generating the field, some people will call it a gravity hill and well. I don't think that's a great analogy because that implies kind of transverse perturbation, right? It's really pressure. It's like an air compressor isn't creating an air hill, right? It's just creating a high pressure condition. And I think that's what this coil is capable of doing. And if you just make it an asymmetrical pressure condition, I think probably. So, but that's my kind of unfounded thoughts on that. So, as for what we saw last night, it was super weird, and it was probably a hidden military base in the mountains, probably. But who knows? Maybe it was just ball lightning floating around and a bunch of hundreds of other strange objects moving slowly. But it was a very cool experience. So, I don't know where we're at. I don't know. Does anyone have any questions? Marco, do you have anything you want to? Okay, sure. Marco, do you have anything you want to add? Anything where I was off base that you want to challenge or contextualize or whatever? It's a yes.
Ask one other person one other thing, and I'll come.
Well, we're gonna do questions during the panel. So this is your last chance to get up here and scribble.
It's now or never.
Like the.
I think that the underpinning nested vortices, the micro vortices, the little vortices, we talk about the top vortice, which is a negative vortice imploding, and it's a big vortice, or the humongous vortice, or the big vortice. Then we got the other vortice on the bottom, which is the decompressing vortice. So you have compression, decompression, whatever. Okay, so but over the skin, the surface of those two big vortices are little vortices.
Yeah.
Baby vortices.
Yep.
And so there was something that caught my eye. When you were showing the cellular growth, I think it was a green slide. Are you familiar with what I'm referring to?
Yes, I am.
There's a name for it, first of all, when you were talking about the higher dimensional, when you were talking about the energy in the fields permeating everything. You were using your own adjectives, I won't try. But that's called the Akashic record by some. Mm-hmm. Some call it the bioetheric template. Yeah. And others call it the morphogenetic field.
Same thing.
I can't hear you now.
Same thing.
Okay.
It's counterspatial.
So that's kind of like, some call that engraved in chrysolite. Everything is engraved, our lives are engraved in chrysolite.
Right. That's why you should never do anything bad, because it's trapped
So-
forever,
Yeah.
and the aliens will know.
So that illustration, that green illustration, what do you call that? The plant, the growth, the big one, with right over there.
They're just like random plant cells.
Huh?
These are just random plant cells. It's just
They
a
ain't
generic.
random. What's so
generic,
significant
drawing plant
about
cell.
That is, but my eye, it realizes it immediately. Everyone else won't. While the vertical lines continue, the
Yes.
side lines do
Yes,
not.
that is a very interesting observation.
There's a word for that.
Good catch.
It's called herringbone. It's called staggered. They know when they lay brick. Well, you're construction.
Yeah, it's not herringbone.
You're not
Okay,
going to build
I'll let
a
that
brick
slide.
building, huh?
It's not herringbone, but I'll let that slide.
Well, I'll let that fly. It's staggered.
It's yes.
Okay?
Well, why is that relevant? Explain to us why that's relevant.
And the ratio that they're off, and the vortices
Yes. Yes.
is all because of the flux fields.
Yep. Right. Well, I think it's
And that's
well.
the strongest.
Why is that happening? Right? Because the 0 point is off center, right, of your symbol. This is why the intersection of the Christian cross is off center, right?
The circle is way higher up. Correct.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The secret is how to put the hole back in the hole, to put the center back in the middle. And that's why we have quantum field theory and quantum mechanics, because
There can be no magnetism in the direct center, right? Because they squeeze each other. They got nowhere to go. It's a singularity.
in all our illustrations, we need to redo them and show it twisting or inverting it for the conductors on the third dimension, the Mobius circuits. I still think our work is all incomplete. When we show that funnel, that well,
Yeah.
I think that it's actually twisting. When it comes
Yeah.
out
Well, there's a phase change. I mean, that's what I was talking about, the chirality flip. That's the 1 and 8. 1 is right-handed arbitrarily, and 8 is left-handed. And that's the phase change where there's a chirality flip.
I think that's very important, what you just described.
Yeah.
I know that's very important. So I really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
And I really am glad that you've preserved it and documented it for us for
I literally put all this together today.
posterity.
So
Huh?
I put all this together today. So it's not as good as it could be. I got a lot more I should have shown, but in a tight spot, I think I got the idea across.
You asked me what else I want to add. Ruhan O'Flanagan, who we all admire, and Tony Bell, we have tremendous respect for them, and Greg Wolf. Ruhan coined the term and you've used the term, and we all have different terms, but the term he used, and you covered this when you were talking about modular arithmetic, as a relationship to surface topology and all these in the fields. Ruhan's term is that numbers are primary. Now, it's very understated, but
It's
that's
like
what
something you would say.
So I say it differently. I say numbers are real and alive. That's what I say. And you've integrated it all, and you've said it in your own in this application and use too. So there's endless room for growth.
Yep.
And research and study and advancement, especially in biology, since that's such a crying need in our times. The applications to this are, I believe, room temperature superconductors, and coil winding is very primitive. I believe what you're doing with the other lattices, triangle, hexagon, diamonds, etc., that the whole thing can be made out of any material. It doesn't matter what it's made out of. It can be made molecularly.
Well, everything's conductive if you push hard enough on it, right? Or eliminate or alter the permittivity.
So the next step is to have a laboratory. It's far enough along and mature enough for you to have your own laboratory.
Yeah, anyone want to give me money?
What?
I said, anyone want to give me money? You're right, I agree with you. Just a couple mil, that's all we need. Come on, all right, that was a joke. Ken, bail me out here. Yeah, I agree. We're ready. A lot of people are ready, right? And there's a lot of convergence and a lot of communication happening. And I think I think every year we get a little bit closer to refining what we're all aiming at, right? And I think the answer is collaboration. I think the answer is to refine these ideas and share our work. Because just like you said, you wouldn't have found that. Well, I wouldn't be doing any of this if it weren't for your work, obviously, and that's true of many people. And I wouldn't have thought about ever plugging this into Duraker Klein Gordon without Tony and Rowan, and I wouldn't have thought about an eigenmode hex grid if it weren't for Greg Balkin. You know, there's a million people who are all pushing on this. So I think events like this are really important, and I'm very happy and honored to have been able to share this stuff. Thanks. All right, I guess we'll call it there.
Okay, we're going to take a 30-minute break. So everyone come back here in 30 minutes, and we're going to continue with the panel.
can see it. feel at home here. I feel at home. I feel at home here. I feel at home. I feel at home here. I feel at home. Maybe I should do it in British. I feel at home here. I feel at home. I feel at home here. I feel at home. Home here. I feel at home here. I feel at home. I feel at home here. I feel at home. I feel at home here. I feel at home. I feel at home here. I feel at home. I feel at home here.
You walked in, I thought it's real, but the
Testing, testing, 1, 2. Welcome, 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 everyone, to Tomorrow's Future. And we are here with an all-star cast today. And we're going to go into some questions and get some opinions and feedback on different topics. But first, we're going to go through and introduce everyone and give a few sentences on who you are, what you do, and what excites you the most about this work. So let's start with you, Gabby.
Okay, my name is Gabby Ensign, and I'm an author of Behind Every Sunflower, Vortex-Based Mathematics, Sacred Geometry, and the Blueprints of Creation. And so my work basically is based off of an entire life's research in the field of sacred geometry. And when I finally stumbled upon the work of vortex-based mathematics, it seemed to be speaking a language that I understood my entire life, except for it was like in a different dialect. And so for me, it was like finding that there's another world in which to translate what I already knew, but in a much deeper level of like what I would say vortex math would be like the underlying coding language of the universe. And what is harmonic and resonant is just the outer expression in the physical world. But that vortex math was like showing you like what the programming language of the hologram was, right? If this is a virtual hologram, the divine matrix that we live in, then vortex math was speaking the language of how it was all coded and how it all works. And so I'm kind of a local to the area, and so it's good for me to I'm lucky to be able to be here tonight. This is my backyard in a sense, and so thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So Stephen.
Yeah, my name's Steven Sanchez. I originally came from California. I have an extensive background in research and development in the aerospace industry for about 30 years. An interesting thing about research and development, it's not about manufacturing. Somebody comes up with an idea and you work with a group of individuals and you make stuff. The beautiful thing about it is because that field, you're always interfacing with some pretty brilliant minds. And what I found consistently, you could be a good machinist, but you may not be a good person at another field, and vice versa. Some of these people that are engineers are absolutely astounding in their fields, but they need people to help build their stuff. So that was there, which led me to, when I retired, all that skill set and all that, I started going into alternative sciences and the like. So I'm actually a fidgeter, and I like to make stuff, and it has just led me to such a beautiful, different place in this world. And hopefully the stuff I work on will be a benefit to people.
Are you working on imprinting water what are you doing with imprinting water?
Yeah, so with the advent of learning and understanding Marco's vortex-based mathematics, because I'm a kind of guy that likes to build stuff, got the 3D printers and stuff, and I found out there's coils, but there's things called coils within coils. So there's an interesting model, I should have brought it, that I've actually got a coil form inside a coil, but it's not wound with wire, it's wound with food-grade non-BPA tubing. So my idea is this: I'm going to put the electrical wires on the outside, and it's like a Faraday cage. It's going to cause possible implosion type responses with these frequencies. It could move the water, it could change the water, but stay tuned. That's what R&D is all about. Build stuff and you test stuff and you find out what's going on. So that's one of my mini projects. Thank you.
Out of everything I've seen all of us do, imprinting water with a coil has been the highest enthusiasm and most requested prototype and application. Imprinting water seems to be very popular. My name is Marco Roden. My email is, no, I'm keeping it away deliberately far away. You know why I'm doing it far away? because no one complains, but there's a reverb. So I'm doing it deliberately. I'm always going against the flow.
Go halfway.
Yeah, okay.
On the live stream.
Plant it in the belly button.
The live stream.
John, how do you pick me up well this way, though?
Not well, but I do pick you up.
You compensate?
No.
I can make anything happen, Marco, so.
Thank you. So my email is markorodin, MARKORODIN @gmail.com. We're at Humankind. Today's date is the 16th of August, 19th, sorry, close. 19th of 2026. I'm proud to say I don't have any warrants this year on my arrest. I don't have any traffic violations. I don't have any unpaid utility bills. My life's perfect. And I'm here with all of my old friends. And everybody keeps on making new advances, new discoveries, new applications in their own field, as well as in vortex-based mathematics and the rodent coil. And I know we don't have any time limit. Whoa!
This is just intros.
This is just intro for now. Okay, I'll wait then. I'll wait. Except to say this is a standard rodent coil, well made, well done, but ISAenergy.com, ISA energy.com, has a variation and an advancement using another base system, which is now 5 squared, base 26, which I believe is the most advanced rodent coil ever made, and I'll explain why later on. This is my good friend Phil and Cayenne and everybody else, good friend. Try and pry this out of my hands, Phil. See how you can do it. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Phil Dubois Coyne. I'm a builder, musician, and inventor. I guess I have a kind of general interest in the fractal architecture of reality, you could say, and ways that understanding that may help inform next generation technologies to help us kind of move forward as a species. And I found some utility of VBM to that end.
Well, fantastic. I don't know what BBM stands for, though.
VBM, vortex-based mathematics.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Aloha, my name is Robin Lee Hill. I'm the founder of the Global Freedom Alliance, and I'm also the host of Hope with Teeth and the Need to Know show. And basically, these things, the Need to Know and Hope with Teeth, is designed to get these amazing, brilliant, beautiful beings' technology and information out to the planet and keep the technology and the people more safe. The very underpinning of Global Freedom Alliance is Hope with Teeth, and it's free the technology, free the knowledge, then you free the children, and then you free humanity. And that's what it's all about. So there's a saying that I have, and that's, we feed freedom. We don't feed fear, we feed freedom. And that also includes giving people hope, because there's hope to be had. And that's a big thing in this time where everything's trying to make you scared or take things away. And in our line of work, for those of you watching in an international audience, sometimes there's danger around. And we're pushing past that. This is not the time to sit quietly. This is the time to go boldly, for we are all here for purpose, and we are all here in this changing time. So thank you all for watching. Again, my name's Robin Lee Hill, and it's Freedom Time.
Hi, my name's Kian. I've studied math for several years and known Marco for several years as well. I've helped him to work on developing the math and coordinating various projects. I think what drew me to the math in general was seeing how, say on the torus, there are 8 different number sequences that all line up and put on a topological form, so 3D. So have we learned to replicate nature fully? No. So I think we have a lot of innovation to do with R&D. And VBM is an interesting proposition for me because vortexes aren't new, but
Say that again, that last sentence.
Vortexes aren't new, but to the proposition that there can be specific number sequences and circuits and multiple way coherence with just using the numbers, to me, is an invitation to study the vortices at a more granular level. And we can see R&D has produced many interesting effects with the coils, but it's also been very crude. So I think we have a lot of study to do. Can we replicate black holes? I don't think we haven't learned how to do that. So for me, it's the main proposition is that we can deepen our study of natural phenomena and not be complacent with our current models. And there's lots of amazing work with science. And so Marco took the VBM from the scriptures of the Baha'i faith. And I don't think the number sequences are these codes. Marco and I have been on calls, and he scrolls through the Baha'i scriptures and says he thinks it's all physics and calculus and chemistry. And I don't think that's specific only to the Baha'i faith. I think that's going to be any true scripture. So I think that's an interesting field of exploration as well, where you have the Bible code or the Baha'i faith, et cetera, and so forth. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much for being here. So excited to have you all here. So the theme for today's event is tomorrow's future. So all of the beautiful research you will have all been doing, we're gonna go around and see if you guys can talk about a very, like an application or a utility that can help humanity. Like for example, Stephen's vortex water device. That's incredible. And so some other potential things to discuss, superconductors. I would love if somebody here would get into that, and also anti-gravity propulsion, and of course, shifting states of consciousness as well. So, okay, so does anybody want to start on applications?
You're already holding it.
Applications. Well, I think healing coils is one of the big ones. Some of the presenters at Tesla Tech have made, one of them's made thousands, and some of the stories, anecdotal stories that I've heard is about highly accelerated healing rates, such as having a large wound largely heal up within a month. And so I think there's a lot of innovation that can be done in that field. Currently, in my view at least, it's profound, but it's also quite crude in the sense of most rodent coils I don't think are made correctly. If you look them up on the internet, you have a torus, say we'll take base 10, and then you have two circuits, and then they wrap them around with however many turns, and there you go, that's a rodent coil. But if you look at the mathematics, there will be 6 circuits, 12 circuits if you leave out the gap space. And these are closed circuits. It's not, you have 2, goes around the whole torus and that's it. So even just replicating the math on that basis and then testing, do we have something, is it an improvement over the 2 circuits, is it an improvement over a regular toroidal coil? So I think there's a lot of innovation that can happen on that space.
So what are some of the different properties that can influence the effectiveness of the field or the electromagnetism emitted by the coil, going into the number of turns? Like, what does that mean for the field? The weight of the copper, the length of the copper, the size of the donut, the size of the hole. Like, how do these properties influence the behavior of the electromagnetic field?
I think good questions. We need to do the experiments. Yeah.
The hole in the center is called the ID, inner diameter. The equator, or the circumference on the outside, the outer circumference, is called the OD. So you have an ID and an OD. Every star that you wind, depending on what the multiplication series, because that's what a star really is a multiplication series. For instance, a circle, 360 degrees, is just line segments that are portions of an arc, that wherever they intersect those lines, it is curved. That's a topic to its own, because we live in point energy creation physics. We live in the kingdom of emanation, and God's called the central orb of the universe. But without getting religious, what I'm trying to say is that those lines of that circle, 360 degrees, if you were to go instead, like I did when I drew that star earlier, from 360 and go instead to, I don't know, 45, 40, let's say 41 or whatever, it creates a star. And that star determines how big that aperture is in the center. It's called an aperture, but there's many other adjectives for it. And what an aperture, and so a circle, the windings is going to be a certain length, but if you do a star, you're going to have a much longer length. And your grade and slope's going to change, and that's all quantum. That's quantum engineering, higher quantum field, flux field engineering, because your grade and your winding in relationship to the flux field, your ratio and your angle and the size of the hole, and expansion and contraction of the torus. It's an accordion. It's elastic because it's all diagonals. There is no vertical, no horizontal line in the torus, but that's a quantum relationship. And when you get that quantum relationship right, then you have superconductivity at any temperature. And you have proper heat, self-sustaining, heat dissipation, self-sustaining. There's two ways to experiment, Cayenne said. There's analysis and there's synthesis. And I try and do analysis is where you start with the problem and you try and figure out the solution. But there's also synthesis where you start with the answer and then you apply it, then you figure out what the question is. But I mean, you apply it to the question. You start backwards, synthesis, you have the answer beforehand. And this coil, the rodent coil, this energy, this device, you know, I believe there is such a thing as fixed constants, absolutes, ideals, perfections. And I believe we've been able to combine all branches of math together. You have to see what other people have done in calculus, what Cayenne has been doing with it, what he's writing. There's a lot of work out there that we'll be sharing in the future, so I'll stop there.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. And Stephen, I want to ask you the same question, if you want to elaborate on the different aspects of the windings, as well as the frequencies. Why don't you go into those as well?
You know, it's really interesting you brought that up, because I did get an aha moment at the Tesla Tech, and it's so true. I mean, this donut here, or rodent coil structure, toroid, you notice it's got these interesting lines with wires going, those things. But there was an individual was talking about those idea Tesla coils, where they're air-driven coils. Now, you have a thing called capacitance in any type of coil, and it would be really fascinating if this coil was a different design, that it didn't have any plastic right between where the windings are, or as minimum as possible, so you could get the relationship of the inductance and the magnetic field to each wire and not being propagated or hindered by the plastic. The guy did some excellent work of showing actual statistics where the PTFE and all these other different various forms of plastic. I can't remember the gentleman's name.
Was it Gabriel?
It might have been Gabriel, but he had that open coil.
I think it was from Colorado.
Yeah, he had an open coil, and he was showing how much more energy he was getting out on an open space coil. So that would be a really fascinating thing. Again, R&D. You get an idea, get a concept, and you alter the idea and the concept, and you start extrapolating numbers. To get back to exactly your question, though, what would affect this? Well, one, obviously, or you have one wire in there, or two wires, or three wires. That would be a different thing, because let's say if you had 3 different wires, well, that means you could have 3 different conductive surfaces inside the coil. There's some interesting things you could do there. You could put different kinds of inducted potentials inside the coil, and that could be voltages, that could be amperage differences, that could be frequency differences. So there's some interesting things that could be gleaned upon there. The other one is not the multiple coils, but how it's wrapped on the coil. I mean, some of them literally wrap it right on the surface. This particular coil has them vertical inside this way. So each one of these coils have a different attribute, a different quality, a different characteristic, even though the way it goes around the coil. Some coils, they like spiral like this, going down like in a sink, the water. Some of them have a really long incident of moving around the coil. Each one of these properties have different attributes, if you will. So yeah, let alone the size, let alone what kind of input or output. Another one I'm sharing with Marco, these are excellent antennas because of the inherent design on them. So there's all these...
Revolutionary antennas.
Yes.
Because of the fact that they're able to be variable.
Yes.
In ways that conventional antennas can't.
Right, so in the ham radio, there's a thing called a quarter wave and half wave antenna. Because you've got a sphere here, and because it's a radial thing, these windings are going like this. Well, the antenna needs length and distance. But when you have a variable length and you have a variable distance, it basically becomes an all-band antenna, which is a very interesting another application, if you will. So, and like that. Then there's the whole idea of okay, I got a coil and I got some wire, what do I do with that? Voltages, different types of voltages, different types of frequencies. There's square waves and there's sine waves and there's pulse DC, there's actual TTL waves which are generated by a computer, so you can make a real bizarre looking wave, and let alone the frequencies of them. You could put 2 frequencies together. So there's all these things that would affect, just like previously I was talking about interferometry, well, you could do it electronically. So there's all these things that, people, myself, I know Phil's worked in the RD type world, and there's a million different ways to skin a cat, as they say. And there's so much more to learn. A true R&D person, you know what, you could actually be working on something for like 10 or 15 years and you haven't even come to a conclusion, but all you're doing is gathering data. True RD work is not, oh, I made the best widget. I want to know what works here. And if it doesn't fail, it's just like our buddy Edison. They asked him how many times he tried to make a light bulb, and thousands and thousands. So didn't that bother you? He said, no, but I found the one that worked. And that's essence of R&D. So I hope I answered your question, but there's a lot to this technology.
Mm-hmm. That's so beautiful. And Gabby, do you have any ideas for applications?
That reminds me of an individual that approached me at Tesla Tech, and he said that there were some individuals who were using this rodent coil for something completely different. What they were doing is they were using them for microphones and speakers. And so what they were doing is they were be able to get the perfect frequency of tone from the voice, using it as a microphone and as a speaker. It's like Bose times 1,000. And so even though we think it's just for devices like what we're going to do for over unity, or we can do it for any of those things, thinking outside the box, we could use it for, like you said, use it as a speaker. Personally, just in the realm of vortex math, I think that it's not just a technological language, it's a spiritual language too. So you find that through this language, vortex-based mathematics, 9 is being basically an attribute of creation, source, spirit, 9 being the still center in the storm. Right, and then so we understand through the language of vortex-based mathematics that the 3 and the 6 are like these oscillating polarities, and so we can see evidence of that in nature and in science. And so by understanding the language of vortex-based mathematics, we not only understand it in science, but we understand it in spirituality. So therefore, I think that VBM can be used for levels of understanding oneself spiritually, spiritual enlightenment. So there's another application. So it's endless when you're using these. If VBM is like this inherent language of the universe, then of course we can find it for many different applications.
Wow, that is so beautiful. And yeah, just to add on to what you're saying, so many people use the coil in order to generate a coherent state, a coherent electromagnetic field, just as one of many applications. And it does absolutely work as a blueprint for coherence, because we're bombarded constantly with so many different types of electromagnetic frequencies that when we put frequencies into the torus and amplify into higher dimensional bandwidths.
Right, you do that already.
Yeah, then we're generating a field of coherence, which can potentially allow the body to heal itself, right? Because the body heals in a field of coherence. It requires coherence in order to heal. So all the interference that we're facing slows down that operation. So coherence is a huge path forward. And Robin, I wanted to ask you about that coil in your hand over there, and how does that make you feel when you hold that with you?
Well, thank you for asking. I tried to never leave home without it. It's a real thing. So I'm not the scientist. I'm not the expert. I'm grateful beyond to know and be on the stage with many of you and many other times. And I'm going to mention you in a second, because I'd like you to actually talk about some stuff that you do. I don't know if you have introduced yourself earlier today on what you do, but Sheila is one of the pioneering frequency experts on the planet. Her information and her work is ubiquitous, it is stellar, and it is really what future generations are going to look to in so many different ways. And I'm so grateful she's been on the show and is a friend of mine. And she knows I don't go anywhere without my Torin. And I originally got this. Someone gave this to me because of my line of work. They actually saw my logo for the Global Freedom Alliance, and he's like, "What branch of the military?" And I looked at him, and I don't say anything. And he's like, "Oh, it's like that." I said, "Well, not exactly like that." He's like, "But you do something." And I said, "Listen, everybody does something. Just depends where you put your attention." And then I saw him again, and he's like, "I thought about you. This is for you." And he learned this from you, Marco. And I had never heard, is it okay if I tell a story about you? I will keep it PG, maybe.
Was I streaking?
I said maybe.
Oh, you can say whatever you want.
So when I first got to Sedona, I've been the founder of the Global Freedom Alliance for a while, and I used to speak on freedom, and I still do, but I used to growl on stage sometimes, like when they locked everything down, and interviewed about freedom-related things. And then I get to Sedona, and all these amazing beings keep coming into my life, and it's way over my head, everything that they're talking about, everything. And I never heard anything about vortex-based mathematics. I never heard anything about zero-point energy or gravitics or anything like that. This is all very new to me. When it comes to other things freedom-related, not new. But when it comes to technology, very new to me. And I heard this name, Marco Rodin. It's not a name that you forget. And then I heard it again. And then I heard it again. And this is all in the span of a week. And I'm like, okay, I'm a prayerful cat. I follow things. I think I'm supposed to meet this Marco Rodin. And so I call him up, and I'm like, "Hi, my name's Robin. I'm from the Global Freedom Alliance. You don't know me, but we're supposed to meet." And he was so gracious, and we met, and I realized that I'm gonna need to like fast before I even listen, otherwise I can't absorb anything. So I do. I fast, I have multiple yerba mates, then we meet, and I said, okay, I think my brain's got like 2 hours, and that's with prayer because I jumped my spirit up. I think I've got like 2 hours to absorb. And within the first 30 minutes, I'm sitting there with this very gracious, benevolent being, and I realize what's been done, and I start tearing up, and he's like, "Is it too much?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, it is too much, but that's okay. I'm hanging in there." I'm like 3 yerba mates in by this point. And I realize he's also proven the Trinity. And then I learned, and then I learned, and then I learned, and I realized just what a gift to humanity that this being has brought and spent his life service in. And then a little bit later, someone drops this in my hand when I saw him again, and he's like, oh, put a magnet on it, and I didn't really understand, but I kept holding it, and I kept holding it, and I kept holding it. And now it doesn't go really anywhere without me. And it changes the space of a room. I've been in front of musicians. I've been in front of other people. And I've put it in the middle of the table. And truly, whether it's people speaking, everything seems to come back into more coherence. And whoever's speaking or whatever the situation is there's just more divine alignment. And you can feel it and you can see it in the room. So I take this with me everywhere. And I'm very, very grateful to know what I know, and which for me is very little, but to know the beings that I know. And some of this is for all of us. We've had to keep going in the face of a lot of adversity. And we're here on stage. There's a lot of people that can't be here, so we speak for them. You know, we're standing on the backs of so many other people that have tried and sacrificed to get things to this point for humanity. And there's so much hope. There's so much technology. I know this wasn't the question, but I just want to put it out there. There's so much technology and information to help the human race. There is microplastics. There's technology for cancers. There's technology to help paraplegics. I disclosed this a couple years ago on a show. Help paraplegics literally dance again in under a week. It's not a thing anymore of, is it possible? It's when you're going to get it. Mahalo.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Robin. And Phil, do you want to answer that question? So go into some of the applications.
Yeah, I guess there's, as Stephen mentioned, there's a number of potential ones. The coil does a lot of weird stuff. But I think the obvious one that most people are interested in is power. I think this is why most people know about the coil and care about exploring it. I think that we're reaching a point where the extraction of hydrocarbons from the earth and setting them on fire in the atmosphere is probably a bad idea. Even if you subscribe to the abiotic theory of oil, I think we're kind of getting past that era of our species. I think other alternatives like solar and geothermal and wind are dead ends in terms of scalability. So, and I know that most kind of mainstream physicists view what's being proposed with this system as a violation of physical law, and I just think that we need to try to refine how people think about the physical world and understand that the term free energy is a misnomer. Even the term 0 point, which has a technical meaning, it's kind of become a dirty phrase. So we just have to understand that it's really about it's a modulator, right? It's a waveform modulation device, and it's simply transforming certain types of energy into magnetic energy. And so that's kind of where I'm at. It seems like people are getting pretty close. A lot of people every year, people are reporting better results, and it seems like certain people might have kind of pushed it over the threshold here. So it's exciting. It's exciting to be kind of on the inside track of this thing, and a lot of us who have worked on this are kind of derided and laughed at or viewed as insane. And I think there's going to be a lot of crow eating when we are finally able to demonstrate what this thing is capable of.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
May I say something else?
Sure.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that some of this, and some of us have talked about this at length. I know we have many, many times. There's another part to a lot of the technology that's coming in. One, it's not new. It's just new to the consciousness of most people in this time, in this way. it's spirit technology. And when you're using something where creator is involved, the technology for the future and what's happening for the future, there must be benevolence and there must be coherence with creator. Otherwise, some things aren't going to work anymore. And that's how you know where things are going. And that's where we are now. And it's really time to free the entirety of the human race, and beings on stage that are doing this amazing, incredible work, they're doing just that. And there's beings all over the planet. And it's a good way to think about it, because the days of using things and reverse engineering and putting up fake stuff to scare people and this and that, they're done. And this is the future.
So beautiful. Stephen, you have something to say.
Yeah, I would like to add, even though everybody knows vortex-based mathematics for the toroid, and there's something else that what this brings to light. I mean, the number set were what vortex-based mathematics represents, and that's a whole in-depth thing that anybody could get into. But it's a new, fresh set of eyes and a new, fresh set of brain cells looking at something. Oh, there's no such thing as zero-point energy, and there's none of this and none of that. And just like Dr. David Martin did at Tesla Tech, showed Einstein's equation and how many things were wrong with it. Again, the statement that Wade said back earlier, that can you find everything you ever wanted to know to be true on Wikipedia? Well, it's the innovation of this kind of technology, this innovation about a different approach. What if this saying what it's doing, and it's now given the opportunity, the mind and the objective thinking of the humanity to look at something different for the first time. I mean, it starts bringing up, oh my gosh, I never thought it would look like this. That, I think, is one of the biggest breakthroughs of vortex-based mathematics, because it's breaking out of this symmetry and this rigid thinking of our disciplines of science, because I do believe, and this is just my personal opinion because of working in the technical world, a lot of that stuff, it ends you into brick walls. A perfect example, let's go way, 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 way back in the electric field. You got Steinmetz and J.J. Thomson and Faraday and Nikola Tesla. I mean, J.J. Thomson, whoa, the father of the electron. Well, if you do a little homework, he was basically adamant of calling it an electron. He called it electromotive force. That should, you think about that. Electromotive force is not a particle. You see how academia kind of squeezed and moved that around. Multiply that to every discipline: chemistry, science, mathematics, atomic physics, aviation, hydraulics, name it. How much of that stuff is really what's really there? And then how much is now going to make you look at it differently? I look at vortex-based mathematics as almost like one of the biggest things in technology that's causing you to look and think about a perspective differently. Because even every one of these people on this board here that have, when they first started with Marco's math, you got a brain strain to try to figure it out at first. But man, when it hits you, you just have this aha moment. Oh my God, the symmetry and how it flows and all that. And then you start seeing how it affects physical matter by its design, by its shape, the holographicness of it. But that's just for the vortex world. But it makes you look at the reality as we know it completely different. Which, in case in point, it's like a cascading thing happening. It's going to affect this, and then it affects this. Just like the beautiful stuff you did, Phil, and took another level of approach of looking at that math from a completely different way. And all of a sudden, wow, another aha. I mean, worked in the aerospace industry for so long. I don't want to claim I made anything great. I just hope I made something that would stimulate another person to make something, which would stimulate another person to make something. Because that is where we can develop ourselves as a humanity and as a technological race. This ain't mine. It's like, hey, I got this idea. You run with it for a while. Because then you got the collective that's not on a closed-end loop. You got the collective dreaming together and moving on to the next person, the next person. I mean, I'd be very humbled even if I did one iteration of this thing and it caused 50 other people to take it and run with it. I'd go, wow, that's pretty cool. I just did one little thing. I painted it purple instead of black, whatever. You know, that's the gift of this work. It's daring to actually take something, add a little bit to it, and hand it to the next person. That's what I see.
That's so beautiful. And one of the things I admire the most about this scene that we're in is everyone seems to be working as a sort of function of a bridge. So the bridge between the physical and the non-physical realm, the bridge between the field itself and the physical, because there are so many radical amounts of dark resources invested into redirecting our attention away from the field and toward the physical, right? Whereas in reality, the field is more fundamental than physical reality itself. And we have the Aronoff-Bohm effect, we have the missing Maxwell equations, and so many different things that we can use to explain to everyone the importance of programming a field in different ways. And how do you program a field? Thoughts, actions, words, beliefs, frequencies, sights, sound. So it's all part of the field. You know, the coherence of the geometries of the objects in a space, it's all part of the field itself. So influencing the field in different ways through the geometry acts as a blueprint that emanates out and creates more coherence in the field. And we have, for example, Dan Davidson, who has actual scientific tests that show that geometry is able to mold the aether. And he's using magnetometers, he's using Gauss meters, he's using SQUID quantum interference device technology to measure these quantum shifts in the actual field, depending on what geometries are in the field and in the aether. So does anybody want to speak about that?
Hold it right there. So you have kind of guided us and brought us to the forefront. We're talking now about a field, and sometimes there's fluxes which are associated. Sometimes they're thought they are the field. Sometimes the field is different than the flux. Watch out for that sometime. Sometime means there's going to be a boomerang coming. So I have things to, so in all the toroid coils, which are creating colloidal fields, flux fields, the flux field, the 39663, is you square the next prime, 5, 7, 11, the flux field gets longer and the number of pairs of conductors increase by one pair every time. Mod 9 base 10 3 squared 3 primes 3 squared makes a bifilar coil in my mind. Then next find 5 squared, which that coil has been made, and I believe it obsoletes all existing rodent coils today. 5 squared makes mod 25 base 26 with 2 pair or 4 conductors. Just as the next prime 7 squared makes mod 49 base 50 with 3 pair or 6 conductors. That's how I do it. Okay, not everyone agrees, but it's based on a prime squared. You increase it makes a 3D base number counting system. This is the only vortex-based mathematics. Prime squared is the only in existence 3D base number counting system that on all axes are seamless. No rips, no tears, no mathematical incongruities. But the 396 in mod 9, when it goes to mod 25, the flux field, the gap space where these higher dimensional magnetic fields, and I believe spirit fluxes, which is also called an inertia ether, a tachyon, a monopole. The 9 is the apogee. So I'd like to ask Kyan, because he's a scientist. I'd like to ask Phil, he's a scientist. I'd like to ask everybody here, because they're all scientists, whether they're metaphysical scientists and they're, or whatever kind, about their understanding. So I'm fascinated how as the conductors increase, the flux field gap space gets longer, but it always stays the same width as far as one tile width, using what I call diamond quantum tiles. They used to call them Penrose tiles. It's just the tiles of the mapping of the coil, which is just a mathematical diffraction grading anyway. But so Phil, I'll start with you. So you showed us hexagonal patterns. We saw triangulated patterns. When I work with those with the 396, I consider those like windows pane. You know, they're not. They're like the Epoch Disney World geodesic dome or Bucky Fuller's dome. Everybody tiles it evenly everywhere. They make it a solid pane. But the tensegrity or the infrastructure of the strength of those geodesic domes are not compromised if you left some of those domes unsolid. Not every dome has to be solid. You could have left holes, and actually you would have then, but what Phil was saying, nature is an efficiency expert, okay, that you don't have to, that everything's about compression and efficiency and what world you're on, whether it's the third dimension or a higher dimensional world. So Phil, did you notice any observations in all your math that we're doing with the 3, 9, and 6, or even in other base systems? I don't know how much you've played with other base systems. You didn't show us a base 25, but...
Next time.
Okay. So do you have any thoughts about these? And Robin mentioned spirit. And the saying is he who controls spirit controls the universe. In the center of he who controls magnetism controls the universe. Magnetism always has spirit in between the lines of force going in the reverse direction. They're inseparable. The magnetic field is the only thing that can give slippage and free play. That's why we're able, and these are different pathways of moving through space, these flux fields, in relationship to the windings. As electrical engineers, when you cut a winding with a field, you generate electricity, which is our end goal, to do real work. And spirit, these flux fields have potential and kinetic energy that we're harnessing, we're tapping, intersecting. That's the power of vortex mathematics. So what have you seen with these spirit, magnetic, higher dimensional flux fields in your number patterns?
Well, I guess I would maybe reframe it from a different semantic vantage point. I think you intuited this system not from an analytical or rational methodology. You saw the answer. It came to you through revelation. And you have been trying to describe that in a self-constructed and self-referential language since that point when you were a kid. Because you came into it that way, I think you are entitled to use whatever lexicon you want to describe this, because you were so ahead of the curve. You were so far out in front with this that, I think it's worth the effort on everyone else's end to analyze and really pay attention closely to what you're saying. That being said, I just call them longitudinal waves. We could call it spirit, but I personally...
I have a question. So longitudinal, no, I'm talking loud. Longitudinal wave, you're calling it. How does that longitudinal wave relate to other descriptions, such as a scalar or a standing wave, or let's think of some other adjectives. How it's moving through space. Is it perpendicular? Is it orthogonal? Is it tangential? Is it the W axis, not the XYZ? Are all the higher dimensions compacted together and work automatically once you get the physical angle and ratio, the molecular coil, whatever you're making it? It doesn't have to be wound. There's so many ways it can be fabricated. It doesn't have to be out of copper. It can be so many different mediums. But explain what you mean by that.
I'm going to tackle all of those one by one, all right? Okay. All of them. It's longitudinal. It's compressive. It's compression, rarefaction. The w-axis is divergence. The w-axis is expansion and contraction from a focal point. There is no transverse component. Magnetism is transverse. So when you say spirit exists in the slippage of magnetic flux, what you're saying is longitudinal waves can only be propagated without transverse perturbation, is how I would say that, right? And so this is what, and as far as it relates to the G word, you know, we'll get there. What were the other, like, 10 things?
Well, you said it, so say it again. You're calling it a longitude. So how is it, what is it?
Sure. Scalar. Scalar is a mathematical term, right? Scalar is a misnomer. I don't remember the other one that you said. Standing wave. Yeah, a standing wave. I mean, a standing wave is an arrangement of any type of wave or two waves that are passing through one another with nodal points and antinodes. Phase conjugate standing wave is a wave that is phase locked. So no, it's not the same thing. I think you can have transverse standing waves. You can have longitudinal standing waves. I think longitudinal is the correct term, right? It is simple wave mechanics. Geologists call them P waves and S waves. This is a common language. This is a language that is readily communicable, that people around the world don't need further extrapolation when you say it. Now, there are a lot of people that don't believe that vacuum propagation of longitudinal waves is possible, right? Sheila mentioned the...
What issue? You spoke too fast.
Sorry. There are people that do not believe that vacuum propagation of longitudinal waves are possible.
Too hard. Say it one more time.
There are people out there that do not believe that longitudinal waves can propagate through the vacuum, quote unquote, right?
Thank you.
So, and you know, Sheila hinted at the Maxwell's equations. You know, that there's plenty of discussion on that. I don't think we need to dive into that one, but you know, the longitudinal component of light is treated as a mathematical artifact, as a virtual photon. They describe it, they have to describe it mathematically, but they attribute no physical process to it and no physics to it. I think that's kind of deceitful. I think they have removed really, and as a result, they have to come up with all of these absurd ad hoc justifications to make their mathematics work, like dark matter and dark energy. Dark matter and dark energy are just standing longitudinal waves in these galactic waveforms, right? A galaxy or a solar system, these are embedded waveforms that are nested in one another, right? Up the fractal chain. And so, you know, they really are, they're having a tough time having cast aside this very important mechanism to help us describe the operation of physical reality. You know, I knew that when the web went online.
So in your distribution of the 3, 9, and 6 through your different, what do you call some of your maps? Through the maps you showed us tonight.
I just call it a hex map.
Hex maps.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. So in those hex maps, the 3, 9, and 6, what are they, information are you deriving from them? And what is occurring that has to do with higher dimensional flux fields transformation?
The Rodin map, in my opinion, has to be understood as a phase map. You can't extrapolate amplitude from it. You cannot use it to describe a real field or define a real field in nature. What you can do is use it as a very efficient shorthand to decompose the constituent parts of a waveform. This 9, the reason 9 represents longitudinal waves is because that is the source of, you know, as Stephen mentioned, you know, the interferometric processes, it is via longitudinal interferometry that transverse waves are generated. So just like in many field equations, when all the perturbations summed up from a source point have to equal 0, in your language, all of those numbers have to add up to 9.
Correct.
Because 9 is 0. 9, because it is the modulus number around which all these functions revolve, the 9 is a 0, and that's maybe a bit easier for people to understand. And so the 3 and the 6, it really, you have to understand how these functions operate when a doubling formula is applied to them, right? And the times 2 operation or times 0.5 operator, the way these numbers behave under these formulas and under the recursions that I talked about tonight, they behave very simply, and they show off wave dynamics. The 3 and the 6 are oscillators, so I think it's reasonable to extract from that they are crudely describing north and south magnetic polarity. I think that the so-called Mobius circuits, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, are describing the E field. They're describing an inverse square current that is looped in on itself in a standing wave, and that has a separate kind of propagation modality from the magnetic current, right, which it does. So that's how I would describe it, right? And I think a lot of people, it's just numbers, right? It means many things. The math is just the math. Our extrapolation of what it represents, I don't think there is any one single correct interpretation. I think there are interpretations that are more useful than others, and some are, I think we can admit a little woo-woo. It's fine. We're all here for that. But some people, I would say, are a little bit less than scrupulous in making statements about what this system means. And so, it is what it is. But I don't think, I think that it can mean many things. That a Mod 9 system, like Tony Bell and Ruin, right? They're applying it to quantum field theory equations.
And Greg too.
And Greg too.
And even Cayenne.
Yeah, and I didn't see that coming. And that's not the same. Now, they are assigning motion via a Cartesian frame, but they're not assigning amplitude to that. So in a way, they're defining phase with that as well. So, the reality is, I don't think there is an authority on this. And I think that you are, as I said, because this information was sort of genic within you or channeled through you.
Not really. It wasn't really channeled, but that's okay. But they say that all the time. But that's not the topic.
What I'm
So
saying
I'll
is,
skirt it.
I think that my interpretation of how
I
I'm.
have a question for you.
Yeah.
So wait a second. What were you using for these flux fields? The definition. We're saying longitudinal or standing longitudinal wave.
Yeah. I think, in my opinion, +9 will represent longitudinal compression, and -9 represents longitudinal rarefaction. This is etheric pressure we're talking about ultimately, and it is via a pressurized ether. And I've used this analogy a few times, and it works fairly well. It's nature's attempt to mitigate pressure, longitudinal tension that forces transverse magnetic expression. And I use the analogy of like a heated railroad. They've accounted for this now, but back.
If I interrupt you just for a second.
Of course.
I see, and I'd like you to hear what you see. I see in these flux fields. So if the first conclusion, are we in agreement on the same page that 3, 9, and 6 are however we want to say it, associated is the most safest word. I would say it's stronger, but with the higher dimensional flux fields, what do you see when you see
I would say lower.
3, 9, 6 in your
I
maps?
think, well,
What do you see?
I see a phase map. I see a standing wave phase map.
Do you see? Okay, now I'll make it harder because that's not what I wanted to ask you. It's not one phase map because the 396 is in vortex-based mathematics is I believe displacing the 124.875. I call it an equal potential major groove gap space, or just gap space. I call it in DNA they call it the major groove, the gap space. I was fascinated by your presentation as it applied to biology tonight. But what I'm asking you is this, is that, now I'm jumping to a whole new question. So I see potential or kinetic energy. Do you see, that is derived from the flux field of the 396. But I'm even going to make it more broader, the question. Do you see anywhere in your maps kinetic energy?
Yes.
That's supposed to be impossible, and I see it too. That's hardcore. How do you create a number map that is that people think is a man-made abstraction, that's just a rendering and approximation of reality? You're saying that then your map is a one-to-one duplication of reality.
You might say that.
I would say that, and I believe that.
I think that it's an efficient shorthand. I mean, this kind of comes to the question, like, is math discovered or does it exist?
Please, no, it's time to address
Well, and
that.
so, okay.
I want to hear about that.
All right, so like
Because that's to the heart of the issue.
yeah. So here's my thought on that. That by its own nature, mathematics quantifies things, right? That is to say, it divides things into quanta, because a number is not another number, right? They are by definition.
I want to hear what you have to say.
That's a lie, but that's okay. Let's see, let's count it down.
Okay.
Okay.
Get the taser.
Does that mean that numbers exist somewhere and are holographically processed and transformed into waves? No. What exists in nature is frequency, right? A peak is different from a trough. One peak is different from another peak. These are quanta. Quanta is a result of constructive and destructive interference. Numbers are able to describe that quantization of the field by its own wave interaction. Okay, this is the wave-particle duality.
Discrete numbers or number maps, not even rehydrated full numbers, that one-to-one correlation to quantum field is miraculous then.
Well, it's pretty simple.
It's a new visual tool.
It's very simple.
If it's a new visual tool, they've never been able to see the invisible. This is a tool that never existed before.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I'm hardly the first to have this idea. Well, I'm the first to generate that number map, but I'm not at all the first to describe the non-physical world of counter space and longitudinal interferometry. I mean, you can go back to E.T. Whittaker to describe this in 1903, okay? It's an old idea. And people before him. So I'm not saying that any of this is new.
And when they failed, Einstein actually said when they tried to prove the existence of the luminiferous ether, and they failed in that experiment, the conclusion from Einstein was if it existed all the ether, it's not a static ether, it's an inertia ether.
Exactly. And that was, not to relitigate the,
But that's
Michelson,
what it
Morley,
is.
and Dayton Miller
That's
and all
the
that.
same thing as spirit.
Yeah, I mean, a particle is not scrubbing through the ether where it would experience resistance. A particle is a product of longitudinal waves interacting with themselves that are superluminal themselves. It is only the magnetic expression of that transverse perturbation that has to obey the speed of light, right? So Einstein was very uncomfortable with his own work, which is what I always...
So you just defined, what did he just define? He just defined how the inertia ether...
pick it up. Help me out here.
Well, hearing you
You
two
don't need
talk,
any help.
hearing you
fine.
talk, we were trying to give.
I'm hogging the mic, so I'd like to...
So
spread it around.
we're sitting here seeing our numbers have significance, a definition of physical reality.
The numbers have significant
Yes, I think they do.
definition of physical reality.
I think
And you think they do?
I think they're like hieroglyphs or pictures of getting you to actually look and glean into something that has to be explained. I mean, there's
You've
something.
worked with thousands of engineers. Every
Yeah.
single one of them would say that is heretical.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to make a quote here from a esoteric teacher in the Tibetan tradition, Lord Padmasambhava. He did a dissertation, and the first thing he said about the correct view of things, and this is getting esoteric here, the first thing you need to understand is nothing. And by that definition, I mean nothing. Have a good grounding and a clarity of mind what nothing is. And when you got that, then you have to have a clear definition and understanding of something. And when you got that down, you have to have a clear and defined definition of the relationship between something and nothing. And I am leading to something here because we have the 3, 6, 9, right? 9 is immutable and vertical, straight down, it doesn't change. And you have this interesting 3 and 6 that keep on flipping polarity, right?
Right.
So imagine, if you will, this front of this stage is this boundary. This is physical matter, and that's what we would call the other. Now, you have an interesting property of this 3 and the 6. Could it be a definition? Because this is going to blow people's minds here. If this, let's say, when I'm moving away from that boundary condition, it's a plus in either direction. If I'm moving way into counter space, let's say from that counter space in that direction is a plus. And then from this side of this boundary condition, it's a plus. So I'm just by arbitrary going to call this side 3 and that side 6.
It's not arbitrary. Well,
Well,
you
I'm
both
just-
say
I'm
arbitrary.
just
Once you
using-
understand the system, it's actually implicit, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah, well, you could switch them.
Because it's a ratchet. Positive emanation creates negative draft counter space, and it all comes out of a point, but I'm listening to you.
So if I'm moving this direction in this domain and this side, let's say this is the 3 side. So I'm moving here, this is a +3. But if the motion of this thing off the 9 is moving this direction, it's actually moving back to center, which is negative on the other side of that boundary condition. So if it's moving over here, this is +3. If I'm moving back, it's -3. But if I'm +3 over here, it's -6 on that side. If it's -3, it's the other way. That's what I'm seeing. So I think the 3 and the 6 are like these definitional boundaries, so I can see this something, whatever it is moving from counter space to space. And it's given in a vector by the plus and the minus. Because I might be making the reading from this side of reality or the counter space side of the reality. And if I say 6 is counter space stuff and the 3 is the positive stuff, but you can flip them. You can flip them. But it helps you guide a direction of something moving from nothing into manifestation, or something that's curling back out of the cloud from a cyclotron into emptiness.
Right.
So, but now I can give it definition of what is moving from where to where. I mean, that's what I see.
I like your critique, and Phil,
Use a,
because you're,
use a blank screen.
you guys have to
Come on.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
No, that's totally agreed.
The binary
But-
code is reduced to 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1. To the Mobius, the lazy 8, the Mobius strip. We have the 3 and 6 ending in the middle of nowhere. And I'm making a simple point. Forgive me if I seem like a child. Because this is child's play. This is child's play. So Stephen,
Yes.
there's your 9, there's your axis in the center.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll draw it for a second, and then I'll erase it, which is not easy. Okay, any multiple of 9 is 9, 18, 27, 36. 9 has no parity because of, and this is where the missing 0 is.
Yeah.
And I believe that's the W-axis, and I believe this gyroscope has an axis that the faster it spins, the more rigid it gets. Is there a better way to say that?
Yeah.
It has preferred frame of reference. It stands upright all by itself.
Yeah.
This is the secret, I believe, of the gyroscope. Where am I going with this? Because
The +3, -3, +3.
I'm still asking Phil about that kinetic and potential energy that he said he believes exists, because that's the only way this is relevant. And all other math today does not possess kinetic or potential energy. It's a mathematical representation, but it's not, you can't, I don't know, I won't even try and describe it. The thing is that, why is this important to me? Because that 4 and 5, that 9 is the only number that lines up over the 0. Everything else lines up horizontally.
Correct.
Which is mere symmetry, okay, which is profound because because everything's polarized in our world horizontally.
Correct.
This is a model of our bodies and our world, our universe. So what happens is, not a model, a legend, a schematic, a blueprint.
Exactly.
Okay, when that, this is a preferred frame of reference, so I'm grabbing something. It has spatial orientation. That means it has up, down, left, front, back, because we've assembled numbers in the toroid number map that way. We have that. Positive, this is my view. Positive emanation creates negative draft counter space. This is positive, positive, positive. But in between the positives, you know the toroid number maps. I do. Cayenne certainly knows it by rote, ingrained in them. It's, oh no, that's negative, negative, negative going in. So I even think 2n is an artifact, that the exponent is a result of positive bifurcation, clefting, twain, and from the positive emanation. There's your zero. Nothing goes through the hole. Everything goes around the hole, the lip. In all of our, in your treatment, say it one more time about nothing.
Okay, so
Just repeat what you said before. And then I'm
to understand, you have to understand nothing first. Then you got to understand something second. Third, you got to understand the relationship to nothing but something. But
Give me that for 1 second now. But you have a point. Can you hold it, or do you want to make it?
I got it. It's okay.
It's okay? Okay. That something is the toroid number map because it's unity. Because these emanations are uniformly, or spirit, the flux, which is associated with the field, and the field is, but it's uniformly distributed over the number map, which we're not looking at right now. We're just looking at this, which is God's light cone, not the toroid number map. So, but it is the definition, the toroid number map is the definition of unity, I believe. And then the 0 in relationship to the 9, understand nothing. So nothing goes, I mean, anything on the third dimension, anything that's moving, okay, and it follows this train track, okay, it doesn't go through the hole, and I think this is what we're missing in all our graphics and our models and our illustrations. I believe it defines the hole by going around the lip, being an aperture, and I believe it inverts when it comes out, because I don't do it with a stranded wire coil. I do it with a ribbon to wind this, or something, but anything but our crude technology today, okay? And you know, we talk about changing aspect ratios, expansion, contraction. I'll leave it all alone. Last point. So I believe 9 is energy application. I believe that it's, I believe that what we have here, if made correctly, which the closest model has been done by the ESA team so far, the difference that they improved upon is that the windings were in a wire lattice, wire frame, that the windings were symmetrical, but in relationship to the flux fields. The standard coils that everyone's done previously, today, that they've made millions of them or hundreds of thousands, is they're doing the windings in symmetry in relationship to each other, and they still haven't understand the holes, the flux field, the gap space, the higher dimensional. In DNA, it's called the major groove. It's a gap space. Okay, so anyway, I believe. So Phil, I was asking you in your number maps again, and I'm going to hand you the map now. So I'm saying that I see potential kinetic energy. You said you have 2, but the distribution of your 396, which I couldn't see very clearly on your maps because I was not close enough and my eyes are so bad, which I'm considering holes in your maps now. Okay, those meaning that they are actually occupied by flux fields, that they're not a solid membrane like a geodesic dome. Wherever your 396 would be in it, it would actually be a window, no window pane. It would be just an empty space.
They're nodes.
Nodes, flux fields. So in your maps, how are those distributed? And how does that relate to the other numbers, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5? And how does that, which is even harder, does that relate to a coil? Because it almost doesn't look like a coil to me when you're doing diamond and hexagons. My uneducated perception is that you're looking at a molecule or docking sites for atoms.
Yeah.
I want to hear about that.
Well, yeah, that's interesting you say that. That was the very early idea I was chasing down. I mean, it's a coil if you slap it on a torus, right? It's just a number map right now. Kian can whip up He can skin a torus with it with his new software. So, the circuits are depending on how you you can slap it on any geometry, right? You can put it on a cylinder or a
Humankind
plane.
did it on the pyramid. It was shocking because
Yeah.
the circuits were at right angles, and they were the steps of the pyramid, but the mathematics on the edges of the pyramid were the multiplication series. We know that the multiplication series in the torus are XY axes. But anyway, to see the pyramid done by Professor Nelson, and Humankind finished his original work, because he's not alive anymore. Anyway,
Yeah. So
everything in geometry is based. If it doesn't have the circuits, if it doesn't have the gap space, there isn't anything. Of course, Randy and everybody has been working on other Platonic solids, but that's for them to talk about.
the numbers are the numbers, right? And different geometries are going to show you different potential coherences. Some may be interesting, some may not. As far as the nines, as far as your question about kinetic versus potential energy, I mean, we live in, there's nothing we're looking at that is not kinetic or potential energy, right? Matter is bound energy. It is bound light. It's high frequency light. So, there is no release of energy other than unfurling that which is confined in these structures, right? Whether it's burning, breaking chemical bonds.
Remind me of a point I forgot that I wanted to make, that I believe numbers come into being when the W-axis, when spirit or longitudinal standing wave, as you would put it, pierces the toroid number skin. It rarefies the skin, and I believe at that very moment of existence on that surface topology that a number comes into existence based on those phase, moment of event, activation, transition, changes.
I would say it creates the torus skin. I don't know that it pierces it.
I'll accept that. That's good enough for me.
It's kind of, ultimately, what are we talking about, right? We're talking about the prime mover, right? We're like, why is there a pressure wave at all?
Because creator's math isn't everything.
Well, it's not, math isn't real, right? Math is a human description of space.
Of what creator's done.
Yeah, he's just humming away.
But wait, but finish your point, but let me speak afterwards.
So that's all, right? I mean, it's, again, I try not to overcomplicate it, that the physical world, which is magnetic and electric by nature, is a product of longitudinal interferometry. It is
A product of,
longitudinal interferometry.
Okay.
It is the interference of two longitudinal frequencies interacting, and and maybe not at 90 degrees, probably at 180 degrees. Right. And at 90 degrees from that, you get transverse magnetic perturbation. That is the genesis of the physical world from nothing. That is the white hole.
my close friends, tell me if I'm wrong in my point and help me be correct to say it right. I claim that all mathematical functions can be combined together into a single torus or any other geometric shape. We won't even pick it right now. But that all the branches of math can be combined together. They call that the gut equation. I believe vortex space mathematics is the gut equation, grand unified field theory. I believe that all mathematical functions are a result of the reticulation of that, as you're saying, longitudinal standing wave. And so math is not man-made, that it's not going to go, when the Earth's mountains perish and we go sucked into the black hole at the center of the Milky Way, I believe that vortex space mathematics will endure, is eternal.
Well, who's to say we can't skip further out? We don't have to take the ride. We just jump out a little bit. Unless you want to.
With the budget
Steven's going to strap in.
With the budget we do not have for our laboratory, I would say that we're going nowhere fast.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think we got a little time, luckily.
You do, I don't.
Steven's got time.
I'm 71 now.
So, after hearing all that and talking about the kinetic energy, when I look at this, life is a very dynamic thing. It's forever moving, ins, out, creation, annihilation. I look at this design of these numbers as if everything was and this is very absurd and nonsensical, but like a pendulum. You can be at one apex of the pendulum or on the other apex of the pendulum. When it is at the absolute state of rest, boom, there's your map. And it identifies all the conditions where you may go with that expression of what we would call reality. By going +3 and -3, +6, -6, that's showing me my position from absolute existence of all moving into physical reality or counter space reality, into magnetism, into counter-magnetism, and all these attributes going back and forth, back and forth. So where's the kinetic energy? This is just the map so I can identify where it is and where it's going, or it's being annihilated or being created. It's showing me where physical reality is being manifest or when it's being annihilated. That's what I see in that. It's not like you couldn't capture reality on that map because it's too dynamic. It's forever moving. The number system's alive. It's absolutely in motion. But I got a tool that I can identify and map it. And with that, though, if I know that to be true, and if I know it moves into this condition of number expressions, wow, that means it does this. There's the first step of trying to backward engineer, because if I know I can move it this way, what do I need to push it into this other position and boomerang it back into center and
I want to
extrapolate
play the
that
devil's
stuff?
advocate for a second. So, Cayenne, there's no rest for the wicked. I have a question for you. We know that you were a Tesla tech, and we know that we're lucky that you're visiting with us right now, because we know the air conditioning and everything else is taking a toll on you. I have a question for you, but I want you to speak really loud for me, okay, and really clear, okay? Say on my behalf, because your degree is in mathematics, what is going on that I'm trying, when Russell Blake said he wanted to be the bridge between me and mankind to explain vortex-based mathematics, what is the bridge that we're trying to get from one side to the other side? I'm saying that we have, I'm trying to say that we have found a way to map 100% identical the flow of energy as it moves into the future, so that we can get rid of resistance and random collisions, parasitics. And I'm saying that these numbers, as I don't want to be, I'm not into being superstitious, you know. I believe that this map is an omniscient map. We call it the dandelion puff principle, because we're finding, like the queen on a chessboard, we're tapping into a particle above the known elements that only magnetism can give slippage and free play. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking, where does this become, in the world of mathematics, as Gödel Escher Bach, Douglas Hofstadter, when he said that everything in physics in the universe is moving from one position to another, and that every particle's trajectory and motion can be, it's a quote at the end of one of his chapters, where he says it's so grandiose of a theme to think that even every particle can be mapped, let alone its future motion. I'm claiming that nothing ever escapes the binary code in this map. All of us should know, is 1, 2, 4, not zeros and ones am I talking about, but I'm talking about a tree, a branch. It's called 2n. And what happens is a chain reaction, fusion or fission, however you want to look at it. Reciprocals, inverts, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. On that map, 64 equals 10 equals 1 again. 128 equals 11 is 2. Can you say it more succinctly, or what is your opinion? But you got to say it loud and clear. And I know your voice hurts.
Yeah. I think the bridge is mechanisms. So
I didn't hear you.
I think the bridge is...
Well, it's actually easier away from you, and John turns
Is it really? Okay.
It's easier away from the mic.
Is this
We get
this
the
clear?
feedback from the speakers in the room.
Sound amazing.
Okay, excellent. So I think the bridge is mechanisms. So so if we can take the number maps, which the ones we've seen on the torus, there are 8 different sequences that all lock in, but on a particular shape, so whether it's a torus, whether it's a flat map, if we can take that and use it as a tool to achieve something or to do something, I think that's a bridge. So for example, if we're saying it's motion, or that it's modeling the actual movement of energy in a vortex, etc., then we should be able to take the numbers, we should be able to take the torus, and show using the standard tools available in physics and field equations, etc., that what we're saying improves upon the status quo. And the claim is ultimately that there is no error. So I think nature is intelligent and coherent. There was a calculation that one scientist did that if anything was random, then it would take longer than the age of the universe for the coherence that we experience every moment to happen, even just for a fraction of a second. So nature doesn't need our permission to do anything. And if we can use, walk the walk, if we can take the maps and test them objectively, and we improve upon the existing tools and can offer useful applications, then I think that's a bridge.
You're about to do a video, you and Greg Volk, saying that the Mod 9 base 10, Greg refers to it as 9b, that Erhard made a mistake, that mathologger on the YouTube channel where he said it was arbitrary, you could use any base system in computer science or in reality, but instead, I claimed that instead it had to be a prime, well, Ferentworth claimed that it has to be a prime number squared, 2's not a prime, and only by scoring a prime do you get a 3D base system, and that a 3D base system, it has no incongruities, no rips, no tears, no mistakes, but that the binary code that they're using today for computers is only because the processors, transistors are 2D and should be obsolete. They create data bottlenecks. The video that you haven't released yet, that you are about to film, which Ryan's going to help with at the new film studio, the Creative Center. Yeah. What is a preview of what you're about to share?
That's to be seen.
That's what?
That's to be seen.
Yeah.
No, so Greg, there are properties of Mod 9 that are very special. I won't say what's in the video, but it will be forthcoming in the future. And Greg has read in the script. Mythology's video that I watched, it wasn't a direct address of VBM, per se. He looked...
It's too close to your mouth, I have trouble hearing. But if they hear you, so I think
Okay.
it's okay.
So what Mythology did is he took the top videos that rank in the several millions of views, and he said, okay, these videos put Tesla 369, which we have no actual record that he says that 369 is the key to the universe, and then the VBM symbol, the circle with the numbers 1 to 9, and he said, based on their claims that symbol from vortex-based mathematics is the answer to what Tesla is saying and the answer to the universe. He was addressing that. So he did go into some of the number sequences. He didn't find anything special about Mod 9. And so I think Greg likes what Mythology has done. But Greg has just, I think, evaluated it from a more rigorous basis from number theory, and he's found some interesting things. So it's a great video, and we'll look forward to releasing it.
Thank you so much. And we only have a few minutes left here. So before we go, I just wanted to go around, and after we've been talking so much about the flux field, and I know we all have a responsibility, to program the field with our thoughts, actions, words, and intentions. So if each one of you can go around and send a message to the field, to the W axis, what would you say? Imprint the field. Now's your chance. Program or be programmed.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's time to feed freedom. What you feed grows, and it's freedom time.
I guess mine's a little more selfish. I don't know about the savior of all humanity, but I'd just like to submit my personal application to the Agarthan retirement home whenever that time may come. I know there's probably a long waiting list, so if you're down there and you hear this, consider this my submission to the Akashic Basin for me and me alone. And maybe Kian can come too.
There is no energy cancellation with zero. It may look like it's net zero, but instead the number 9 represents the unapproachable, treasured, fortified energy of God. There's an invisible hand behind everything. It's not by accident that number 9 lines up vertically over zero, and that it's imparted symmetry and mirror symmetry, and horizontal polarization and disketting, that everything's a saucer, our universe is a saucer, our eyes are horizontal, our hands are inverted, but this math is the secret of how everything's inverted, and how everything, how protein fold works. If when properly applied and used, you can end all disease, produce unlimited food. You can reverse aging. It is the secret of cellular communication. And the DNA backbone is phosphates. The major groove in the center of them is phosphates have a negative electric charge. With any negative electric charge, there's always an associated higher dimensional flux field that is nested inside DNA. Evolution is not haphazard, random, trial and error, chance. Evolution, this higher dimensional flux field is God's feedback mechanism. And so evolution is God is omniscient, and this higher dimensional flux field is a sensory feedback mechanism, feedback loop mechanism, and I'm honored and privileged to be with everybody and everybody's contribution and their own books and their own discoveries. And I hope everybody in the future goes to John's and Ryan's and doesn't leave and takes over their film studios and documents everything that you've discovered and learned, because they're offering, to help you record and document and preserve and share your own findings. And that's why vortex-based mathematics is not copyrighted or patented by me. And the coils, as we understand this math better, will only get better.
Wow, what could we impart to the population that's watching this video, and including to ourselves? What I can say is thoughts are things. And beyond even the thoughts, even the words are things. And they do impact, and they have consequences and blessings into the world. Just like the symbol, we're talking about this eloquent dance of reality itself. And one of my shaman teachers said, life receives life in a giveaway manner. How eloquent that is. That's the 369. Life receives life in a giveaway manner. All life yearns relationship with life. All life has the right to free expression into the world. All life does not have the right to arbitrate this free expression into the world. It is that simple. So with that, live your life as though it matters.
I think that we all have a unique contribution to give, and that's defined whatever that is. And there's so many different voices on this panel, and we all have a unique perspective and something of value. And so, and whether it's anybody here or anybody out in the rest of the world, it's find that uniqueness that you can share to the world, because we all have it, because we're all connected to the same source.
So beautiful, everyone. Thank you all so much. And my message to the field is program or be programmed. You create the field around you, and then it creates you in an endless feedback loop. So program it wisely, everyone. Program it with love, compassion, gratitude, and creation. So I want to thank you all so much for being here today. Did you want to say something? Okay, Keon's going to program the field a little bit.
I think for me, it's just do it. That's it.
Just do it. Nice one. All right, well, thank you guys so much for being here today. It's been so lovely. And to everyone here in the audience, thank you guys all for being here today. And to everyone at home, thank you so much. And to John in the back, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, that's it. Bye-bye.